Hello, this is John Smedley from Sony Online Entertainment, and I'm listening to Online Gaming Radio.
Should have known that dude was evil. Could have killed him when he had the chance.
See, that's why I kill so many NPCs. You never know.
Like it? How about this one?
That I didn't see coming. Hello and welcome to Game On Online Gaming Radio. Today is Monday, December 31st, the last day of 2012. I'm your host for tonight, Trueflight, and here with me is a new co-host this week.
Zjeven. Hello. That guy from last week.
He's Jane. You can't change names.
Yes, I can. I'm allowed.
We got a good end of the year show for you this week. You can join us in our IRC, hosted by globalgamers.net, and chat with us live by heading over to www.onlinegamingradio.com and clicking on the Chat Live button in the top right corner of the page. It'll open a Mibit IRC client and take you right to us. You can also reach us by email with your questions, comments, and suggestions. I'm Trueflight at onlinegamingradio.com.
And I don't have an email address yet.
You broke it.
I do, but I broke it. Which I'm sure I'm going to get quite a bit of flames in my inbox, probably from the head honcho about that. But that's okay. I'll deal with it.
We just can't have nice things.
No, we can't. We can't.
And
it's my fault.
Good thing I take paper notes, because I just looked at my my folder for my notes. And it's all last week's stuff. I didn't put anything in it. But I have a stack of paper here on my desk. Oh, what sort of topics do we have this week? We've got our top 10 best games of the year and top 5, sorry.
Top 5.
Top 5 best games of the year and most disappointing worst games of the year. I kind of combined mine.
Oh, I happen to have a separate category for mine, but that's okay. We'll do it our own way.
See, I find bad games very disappointing.
True. I had just god-awful games that I wanted to rage and throw across the room, and then I have my biggest disappointment.
So you have the Ghosts and Goblins category.
Yes.
Nice. Anybody who doesn't get that reference, you're too young. We had a bunch of other odds and ends. Nothing too important, actually.
Lots of news this week, or the last couple of weeks.
Good or bad?
Some good, some bad. Interesting things, evolutions in the genre, the MMO genre, we're seeing unfold before us.
Some sad news, too.
Oh.
2 things, I think. I know of at least one, but... where do you want to start?
Well, let's just get going with the news. I have, probably the biggest piece of MMO news that came out in the last couple of weeks was, the pay once, play forever, model of MMOs seems to be picking up steam as the Secret World adopted the model similar to Guild Wars 2. You pay once for $30 and you can play the game indefinitely for free.
Hear that, Sony?
From what I'm seeing, there's like $5 adventure pack style content in the form of issues that they release. If you do subscribe to the game, you get just, I think, like $10 worth of their currency to spend on stuff.
See, that's pretty much what Sony does now. Subscribers for EverQuest 2 and that get 500 station cash each month.
Mm-hmm. Well, in this case, they're just going to be putting that. Most of that's going to. I mean, you can spend it on cosmetic items in their store, but they are going to be releasing paid issues that you will have to dump money on if you're not a subscriber. So they're little adventure packs.
See, I'm okay with that too. I bought all 3 adventure packs for EQ2 back in the day.
Mm-hmm. And they have. I mean, not to say that they haven't put out lots of issues. They've actually, since its release, I think when did it release? Back in July. They've released 5 issues already. So they are keeping the content coming out.
I'm just picking on it because I ranted about this last show about the pay to play for EverQuest 2 and how every other game seems to be going free. Even Sony's own PlanetSide 2, you didn't even have to buy the game. It was free to get the game, free to play.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of Sony's most profitable games right now. I still think it's funny.
With as many companies picking up this model, maybe we'll see an evolution. And I mean, Sony did say at Fanfare that what they currently have, they want to improve upon. So we don't know exactly what that means yet. They dropped a few, maybe this and maybe that. But
I think with the trend in the market, it's pretty safe to say that EQ Next is probably going to go that direction.
Why not? It works.
Apparently.
We cannot say for certain.
What?
We cannot say for certain because
No, we
Next
can't.
is big. Hush, hush, shh. We don't know.
I have the sad news. It started off as good news, though. Game developer THQ actually put out a big press release about how they were going to start looking into programming their games for Linux as well as Windows. And then, like a month later, had a nice big press release about how they went bankrupt.
I shouldn't be laughing.
I like THQ.
I do too. They have some good games.
I love Dawn of
really
War.
do.
I still play the original one.
They did say that they're not going to be, or this will not affect. At least they say it.
Yeah, they
that
said
it
they're
will not
not
affect the
canceling
development.
their projects, but I'm pretty sure it's going to delay some.
Some of the more recent news has said that with the bankruptcy, they're running into some issues finding ways to finance things. So they may say they don't want to cancel any projects yet, but we will have to see. Especially after the holiday news lull, they might put out some more. But after filing for bankruptcy, the CEO was pretty forward in saying we don't have any plans to cancel anything. Active development continues. But a few of the murmurs have said that they are running into some financial struggles with development costs after the bankruptcy. Which sucks, because THQ does have some good games, and some good games in development.
Sorry, talking to someone.
It's okay.
That was the sad news I had. I hate to see bad things happen to game companies, especially ones that make things I like.
I do have some more sad news, or bad news, or funny news, or however you want to put it. According to quote-unquote data, and I think that this data was gathered about average review scores, and it also took the highest review score and the lowest review scores for all gaming consoles that have been released. I think that's some of the more recent gaming consoles, like in the last decade or so. And the Wii U rated as having the third worst launch lineup ever, according to that chart.
Third worst. Let's see, what would have beat it? The Virtual Boy.
Well, I know what was below it. The Wii was below it, and the PlayStation 1 was below it. The average review score was about 68%.
Really?
For Wii U launch titles, with the highest review score being a 95 and the lowest being a 28. The number one was the GameCube, believe it or not. So this is not something that is a same old story for Nintendo. They have had good launch lineups. For whatever reason, the Wii and the Wii U have just fallen to the bottom.
I thought the PS1 had a pretty good lineup. I can't believe that the Virtual Boy did not make top that list. Most people don't even know what that is when you try to say it.
I think I remember it. Wasn't it that the VR system that Nintendo put out a long time ago?
The handheld 3D virtual reality Game Boy type thing that stood on its own tripod.
Oh, I remember that.
It was
I remember
really
seeing it in
bad.
stores. Wasn't it didn't it fall to the same fate as the Power Glove? I think it was called the Power Glove.
Yeah, but that was an accessory. This was its own little console. And it only had 4 games, I think, ever made for the thing before they scrapped the whole idea. Now I gotta go look.
They are coming out with something similar. Oh God, what's it called? I forget the name of the system, but there was a Kickstarter fund that is funding something similar.
There you go. Released July 1st, 1995. The price around $180 became a commercial failure and was never released in the PAL markets.
Gee, I wonder why.
Nintendo discontinued it a year later.
So they actually tried to support the thing for a year.
Doesn't say
Wow.
how many games came out with it. That's what I was looking for. Release, legacy, games. Here we go. There were 14 games made for the system in its entire life.
Do they have names? Did they do any big first-party titles for the thing, or was it mostly just
List of virtual
shovelware?
games. 3D Tetris, Bomberman Panic, Flash Boy, Galactic Pinball, Golf, Jack Brothers, Mario Clash, Mario Tennis, Red Alarm. There's a Gundam game. Virtual Boy Wario Land, Virtual League Baseball. Oh, and they have a whole section of red one. Oh, they were ones that were never released. There was a Star Fox.
Star Fox game for it?
Was never made.
Oh.
It's on the list of games that were developed but never released.
I got the chart, and apparently the Virtual Boy wasn't even added to it. In the following order, so from best to least, or from best to worst, GameCube was number 1, followed by the Xbox 360, followed by the Nintendo 64, Dreamcast, Xbox, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, Wii U, Wii, and PlayStation. So Virtual Boy did not get added to the list. Maybe they just saw it as being
They
not...
probably didn't even know what it was.
It wouldn't surprise
It says
me.
it was released around the same time as the PlayStation.
Or it was just such a commercial flop that they decided to pull
That was
it.
horrible. The guy who actually created the thing actually got asked to leave Nintendo after that.
Note, number 4, Dreamcast. And yet, for whatever reason, Sega decided to say, we're not making hardware anymore.
Yeah, but that was a good move for them. They were losing a lot of money in the hardware market.
Dreamcast had some great games.
It did.
Great games.
But it was the same time when Sony was really starting to pick up momentum.
Yeah, at the time that Nintendo was kicking itself in the head for not accepting a deal with them.
Nintendo already had a big contract. You know, they were leading the market, and Sony was starting to pick up pace, and Sega just said, you know what, let's just cut our losses. I think it worked out for them, too, because they ended up making software for both Nintendo and Sony, and now Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, once Xbox joined the market, too, it kind of really changed everything up.
Well, it shook up the entire console market. Because it used to be just a competition between Sony and... Well, Sony, Microsoft... Excuse me, Sony, Nintendo, and Sega. And Sega dropped out, and then the Xbox came in and filled in the gap. And boy, did it ever fill in the gap. My good...
Don't forget Atari.
The 2600. Yeah.
Well, I was referring to the Jaguar, but...
Oh. My family had a 2600.
How do we get off on a console rant? I still have a 2600.
I'm not sure, because there was a lot of console news.
I actually have an Atari, and I'm not sure the model number, but it predates Atari. It's
Really?
actually a Telstar Games, produced by Sears in Roebuck.
Did it... What? Whoa.
It looks exactly like a 2600.
Well, I mean, what did it...
It plays
Is it
Atari
just-
games.
Huh.
It was the predecessor to the 2600 that everybody knows and loves.
I
But
did
yeah,
not...
I still have the box to it and everything.
Do, 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 do.
It's like $200 at Sears. Anyway, I'll post some pictures up of it somewhere. How did we get off on a weird console rant?
I'm not sure.
That happens. Why do I have a bunch of mail?
Well, I have something that's somewhat PC gaming related.
Okay.
Skyrim released its Dragonborn DLC for the 360. It's going to be released for the PC in early 2013. And you get to go to Morrowind, Solstheim, actually, the little island thing that was in the Blood Moon expansion.
Sadly, I know nothing about Skyrim.
It's a great game, though.
I was never a big
Fantastic
Elder
game.
Scrolls fan.
You get to ride dragons. in this this DLC. However,
I can ride dragons in EverQuest too.
yeah, they hyped it. They hyped the dragon riding like you would not believe. But you can't actually control the dragon once it's in the air. You can just use it as a fast travel mechanism, or to have it hover over you and blast at your enemies.
Nice. When do we get that in Guild Wars 2?
I don't know.
I want mounts.
Petition it to. Oh, well, I think that wasn't that one of the bigger requests? I mean, or one of the big list, the big part of the big laundry list that people were saying, this is not in beta yet, can you please put this in before the game goes live, and it didn't quite get there?
Probably. Right there with player-created chat channels. How do you launch a game without player-created chat channels?
I have no idea. I mean, Age of Conan made the same mistake, and people did not like them for the same exact reason.
It wouldn't even have crossed my mind to think of that if I was a developer.
Well, the backlash was huge for Conan. Huge for Conan. I haven't really been following the Guild Wars 2 forums as much as I do others, so I'm not sure how big of a complaint
it's not as big in Guild Wars, because what a lot of people have done, I know, we play on Tarnished Coast, and like for the people who roleplay, they've actually made a role-playing guild. And because of the way Guild Wars is set up, you can swap who you're currently representing, so you can be in multiple guilds at a time. And a lot of people just, when they want to do RP, they swap over to this RP guild, and they do it all in that channel.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they're done, they go back. The problem we're running into is, like, Zjeven likes to go out and, do quests and things while she's RPing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do, the credit you get, the influence goes towards whatever guild you're representing.
Representation issues.
Yeah.
The guild that I was running at the time had the exact same issue, where people just were not representing because there were guilds that were formed to supplement the ability to use channels, to go to the tavern, to do that other kind of stuff. And so nobody really sat and represented our guild ever. They were all trying to be part of the community, and understandably so. But we don't see representation. You don't see representation because of it. It's a problem that they need to fix.
And Cheryl's saying the MMOs have had that since 2003. It's like, no, EverQuest had that in 99.
The chat channels came later.
They did?
Channels. Yeah, they did. I think they came later.
Oh. Maybe he's right then.
But it was earlier than 2003. I think that it came along the same lines when they implemented the ability to actually send tells when you were zoning.
Oh, he's talking about the flying. He's talking about the flying taxis.
Oh,
I misunderstood.
Yeah, back about the time that there was a time in EverQuest that you could not send tells to people while you zoned. So, because the game kind of interpreted you as being offline while you were zoning. So every single time you're having conversations with people, you'd stop at the zone line, tell every single one of them, I'm zoning, I'm zoning, I'm zoning. And then you'd zone, and you'd go back once you're on the other side of the zone line. Okay, I zoned, you can talk to me now.
Well, even EQ2 had issues with that, though. I remember the UI I had used to let me chat while I was zoning. And that little loading screen that pops up, my chat window was still there, and I could type. And every now and then it would just say, user cannot be found, or like if you were doing a guild, say, it would say you're not in that guild. Random weird bugs.
Well, I mean, according to my understanding, I might be wrong, but I think the game actually logs you out of that zone, and you kind of exist in limbo land for a bit while your character then gets logged into that other zone.
Well, I believe not all the zones are on the same server, so it swaps you back and forth between server machines.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong, but that was my understanding. That's why sometimes some zones are down and not others.
And some servers are down and others, while you'll see a cluster of servers go down.
Yeah, because I think certain zones are on certain different servers. The actual server banks, or whatever you call them. Clusters.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, let's go on to something else. I got a couple things non-video game related. The horror.
On a game on show is allowed?
I actually had this on one of my Game of the Years until I realized it actually came out last year, and I'm just that far behind. Cards Against Humanity. Have you ever heard of it?
I have not heard of that game.
That's an amazing game.
Cars or cards?
Cards.
Cards Against Humanity.
It is basically, if you've ever played the game Apples to Apples, it's very similar to that in mechanics, except it's made basically for rude people to insult each other. It's the best way to put it.
Wait a second.
There's two different decks.
This is a game.
Yes.
It counts.
There's
Okay.
two different decks of
said
cards.
something not related to games.
And, well, I said it wasn't related to video games.
Oh.
And there's two decks of cards, and one deck has basically like a Mad Lib with a couple lines missing. One or two sentences usually. And then the rest of the cards have phrases on them that you use to fill in the lines. So everybody grabs their best reply out of their hand to fill in the blanks, and whoever gets the absolute awesomest response wins. At least that hand.
This sounds like it could either be a laugh riot or...
it's hysterical. It's a great drinking game. But anyway, this Christmas, they've had 2 expansions out to the main game. All reasonably priced. You can get it on their website for $25 for the basic set, and I think it's $10 or $15 for the expansions. Except for one thing, they didn't make enough of them. They didn't realize it was going to be so popular. So it's been sold out like crazy. And the only way to get them is on these online retailers who basically stockpiled them, or like on eBay. And people are charging like $80, $90 for this thing. It's $25 from the manufacturer.
Just wait.
Yeah, just wait. They'll print more. But this Christmas, they did something really cool, and I've never seen another company do it before. They produced a little mini expansion pack. It was a 30-card supplement for the holidays. It all had holiday-themed cards in it. And rather than put it out and say, you know, this is how much it is, they made this cool little video, and it basically said it costs us $1 to make the cards, $2 to package them. And so basically it's $3 a pack of cards. That's what it costs us. You guys can pay whatever you want. And they put a link up on their website, and you could say $0 and hit the thing, and they would send you a pack of cards for $0.
Huh.
And of course, tons of people did that because people are cheap. But enough people donated larger amounts to compensate, and they ended up taking all the money from all the sales and donating it to the Wikimedia Foundation. They ended up raising $70,000.
Wow.
And they donated it all to Wikimedia. Now, the part of this that really annoys me are the idiots, and I'm assuming it's mostly the ones who probably got their packs for free for the $0. If you go on eBay, those stupid Christmas packs, now that they're sold out, are on eBay for $50, $40.
So people are still reselling them.
Yeah. So even though they got them for free,
they're reselling them.
Yeah. They got to name the price that they wanted, which I'm sure the people who are reselling them are the ones that got them for free. So, yeah, it ticks me off.
Dumb.
Cool game, great people. The company who makes it is hysterical. They even have a version on their website. You can download the entire starter set and print out your own cards for free.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's their way of bringing down the prices for the people who are trying to skyrocket the price because it's sold out. They offer the entire set for free. But anyway, yeah, it's a really cool game. If you haven't checked it out, you got to give it a try. If you have a group of friends to play games with, or just some drinking buddies.
I'll have to drag a couple of my friends together. I'm looking at it on Wikipedia now, and it does look hysterical.
The other non-video game news I had on here was... where is it? The new HeroClix. There's a new HeroClix Star Trek Tactics 2. It comes out in January. So anytime between tomorrow and the end of the month. And it's got Romulans, Vulcans, Cardassians, Ferengi, Dominion, all sorts of stuff in there. They released this set about a year ago. It was last January. And it only had Klingons and Federation. and you probably have no idea what I'm talking about.
Miniature set, right?
Yeah, they're basically little miniature figures. They're pre-painted. They're excellent detail on these ones, and the base I think is 1.25 inches, and the figures themselves are about 2 inches, and they set on little flight stands above them, and it plays the way it's always been described as like tactical chess. There's little numbers on the bases that correspond to range and movement and attack power and all that. And the cool thing about the Clicks game is that when you take damage, when you get hit by something, there's a dial on the bottom of the base that turns, and the stats change.
Oh, that's neat.
So as your ships take damage, they lose certain abilities to gain other abilities. The game actually started as a fantasy game called Mage Knight a long time ago. And then that turned into HeroClix as we know it, which is the same type of game, but it's all based around comic book superheroes.
DC and Marvel, etc.
Yeah, it started as just DC and Marvel, and then they expanded into indie comics. Then they expanded into actual video game franchises and movies. I mean, they had a Halo set. They had Assassin's Creed.
City of Heroes and Villains set.
Yep, there was a City of Heroes and Villains set. There's only 6 figures in that, I think. Or no, 8? I can't remember. It's been a while. But yeah, then they had Assassin's Creed. There was a Street Fighter one. More recently, there was Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. So it's kind of expanded and blown up huge. And ever since they took on the HeroClix name, all of the sets are compatible. They all use the exact same rulebook and the exact same abilities. So you can take, Legolas from Lord of the Rings and take him up against Hawkeye from Marvel Avengers. And see who's the best archer. In fact, I used those two on a team together not too long ago.
I'm picturing a few of my Star Trek nerd friends now trying to decide if they're going to use their student loan money on Star Trek figurines or rent.
There was a game that came out, I want to say a year ago, called Star Trek Fleet Captains, and it recently came out with an expansion. It's a lot more detailed as far as space combat goes, where the Star Trek Tactics is more generalized. But the difference was the ships in that came unpainted. They're actually the identical ships. The same company makes them. So I know a lot of people have been buying the Tactics ships, taking them off the base and switching them so they don't have to paint the other ones.
Okay.
Because they're the exact same models. Well, if you've ever gotten into any miniatures, things that you have to paint yourself, there's two kinds of gamers. There's people who love to play the game, and there's people who enjoy the entire hobby, which includes assembling and painting and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of the ones that despises painting. I've been playing Warhammer 40k for, 15, 18 years now, and I've still got thousands and thousands of points worth of models that aren't painted. I just hate doing it. So anyway, it's nice to have an option for pre-painted. But the game itself is fun to play. It's a lot. The HeroClix game with the superheroes over the years is what we call power creep. Each set they try to make a little bit better, a little bit more powerful than the one before it. And after 10 years, they're just way overpowered. And then the Star Trek set being brand new and starting off, it hasn't gotten to that point yet. So it plays much slower and it's much more tactical than the other game. Positioning actually matters. Whereas in the HeroClix set, Superman comes flying at you with a dumpster in his hand and hits you for 12 damage and your guy's dead. I think the most powerful ship in all of the Star Trek stuff so far does 4 clicks of damage. Whereas literally, like I said, I've seen Superman do over 12 in one hit.
Okay. At least the numbers there, I can tell the difference. I have no idea what a click is. I've heard of the sets.
Click is basically a hit point.
Okay. Oh, because the little base.
As you turn the base, as you take damage, each time you turn it, it clicks. That's where the name actually comes from. So, I've talked about HeroClix on the show before. My kids play. I used to go to tournaments and things. But anyway, I thought it was pretty cool.
I've got a piece of news for our Canadian friends.
I don't have any
Nintendo-
friends in Canada. Remember, I insulted them all a couple shows ago. Might have been before you came.
Might have been the episode I didn't listen to. So, wait, it was before I came? Okay, then I'm safe. The Nintendo, and I'm going to be hating on Nintendo a lot this episode, just as a pre-warning, I guess.
Use the Virtual Boy as a reference for hating on them.
Well, I've already talked about the Wii U's worst launch lineup. I got another piece of news after this, or it's actually part of the top 5 best and worst.
Is this why your tag on Messenger is Nintendo screws up everything they touch?
Oh, I will get to that. I have a rant an hour long that I will try not to make an hour long. But they released a new console called the WII Mini, just in Canada. It retails for only currently $20 less than the current Wii.
So they made a PlayStation Slim.
Yeah, well, it's only $20 less. Now, here's the thing. They stripped out of this Wii Mini all internet compatibility, which means you cannot get Netflix, you cannot get Virtual Console, you cannot use the store, you cannot access any of the internet channel.
That's exactly what they did with the PS2 Slim when it came out. It didn't have the hard drive or the network adapter.
It cannot... Let's see here, what else? It cannot play GameCube games either. So basically, the only thing that it does is play Wii games. And so, where my Wii has kind of collected dust over the last several years, I did use it as a Netflix box for a bit, and there were a couple good Wii games that did come out. Metroid Prime, for example, that were fantastic. I did use it to kind of play Resident Evil 4, and I used it to, show some Flash videos to the family while they were in town on the TV, and all that's pretty much gone. I'm just kind of stuck with the Wii functionality. And the kicker is that it only costs $20 less. So...
I think the PlayStation one was like $100 less, so...
Yeah, so I mean, you're better off going just right down the aisle from where that thing is being sold and picking up a Wii for $20 more, because you get all that functionality. But apparently a lot of moms did buy the Wii Mini for their kids for Christmas. But it's getting quite a bit of backlash. People are face-palming all across the internet.
But the only thing I could say is that it might be good if they were very young children, because you might not want them to have the internet accessibility and all that stuff.
Well,
the only positive thing I could say about it.
The other kicker is that it isn't even very much smaller than the Wii. Take the Wii and cut the corners off of it, and you have the Wii Mini. It weighs about the same, so it isn't lighter in size or weight. It's kind of it was head scratch worthy. Like what the heck were they thinking when they were doing this? I mean, there doesn't seem to be a point to slim it down, especially if you're only going to sell it for $20 less. Consumers are better off just buying a Wii, but they sold it anyway.
And how many of those got sold? Where was that on your list of sales?
I can find out.
I'm just curious. I actually didn't even know about that. I think I'd heard about it at one point, and... What other fun news do we have? Oh, here's one right up your alley.
Hmm?
Steam. Mr. I love Steam to death. It is your platform of choice, I believe is what you said.
Kinda, sorta. Sorry.
Steam Linux is in open beta.
Oh, that's right. They're trying to convert a couple games over to Linux using their Source engine. But Source, according to my understanding, has always been Linux compatible because it's not coded using DirectX.
Yeah, it's not fully functional yet, but I guess they've got a few games transferred over, and they're having people beta test, and it's coming along. Since THQ's bankrupt now, I guess it's up to Steam to bring good games to Linux. There's already a Windows emulator for Linux, but anytime you run something through an emulator, it ends up with issues sooner or later.
Yeah, Wine. And they, according to an article I read, they are showing that a lot of Steam games are still going to need to run currently on on wine. They're trying to get all of them over. I think the only ones that work currently are the Left 4 Dead series, which is a start. I mean, don't get me wrong, Left 4 Dead is a great game.
I have Left 4 Dead too.
They got a ways to go if they want to abandon ship from Windows. Especially considering how many games are coded to use DirectX. DirectX is a pretty strong platform. Or a pretty strong graphics coding base. Do I have anything else?
I do. I have like 2 pages left.
Good lord!
I have another Steam thing, but that I'm saving for later because it's related to a different topic. How about World of Tanks 8.2?
Don't play World of Tanks.
What? Alright, that's it. You're fired. World of Tanks 8.2 actually came out right before our last show, but it didn't make it on because we had a bunch of other stuff to talk about. It introduced 5 new tanks to the American tree, pretty much a new heavy line with auto-loading guns, which was kind of cool. It introduced a handful of new premium tanks, a new French Tier 8, a new British Tier 6 heavy, and a British, I think it's Tier 7 tank destroyer, which is the only British tank destroyer right now. And they redid 4 of the new 4 of the older maps got redone with the new graphics and physics, which were nice. The big thing coming, though, is the 8.3 update, which is supposed to be out in a week or 2, I believe, has the entire Chinese tank trees. Which the game supposedly started. It was supposed to be a World War II type game. And now they've got tanks spanning World War I all the way up through, like, Korea and Vietnam and all that fun stuff.
They can be going more modern era too, you think?
I don't
Eventually.
know. They're getting there. Might as well at this point. I don't know, I think my biggest complaint is since they're trying to balance out how many tanks each country has, like half of the tanks aren't even real tanks. They were like prototypes or, things that got built but never put into production. Some of the higher tier tanks were never even designed. They were like sketches on paper. So it kind of gets annoying.
Blueprints, if anything.
They have like the Mouses in there. Germany only ever built 2 Mouse tanks. One was never even had its turret, and the other one never had an engine in it.
Well, they have to keep on releasing content, and there are probably only so many tanks that have been built over the last several decades.
Yeah, but there's so many other things in there they make a huge profit on that game. It's a free-to-play, free-to-download game, and you can play the entire game from start to finish without ever paying a dime. I love the way their free-to-play model set up. The paying the money gets you bonus experience and bonus credits. So basically, you make more money, you go up levels faster. And you can buy better ammunition, but players who don't pay can buy the same ammunition. It just costs them in-game money, whereas the other people can buy it for basically you pay cash, you get so much gold, you use the gold to buy it. The only other thing that paying money allows you to do is you can buy your way into higher tier games. So you can basically, if you think of it like an MMO, you can buy yourself a level 50 character. But the catch to buying one is where all the other tanks, you work your way up, you buy this one, you go up to so many levels, and it branches out and you can buy 2 others. Mm-hmm. And then you work up one of them and it branches out and you can buy 2 different ones, and it spreads from there. If you pay cash to get the gold to buy a tank, it doesn't branch to anything. So while you might
you're stuck.
Yeah, while you might be able to buy a high level, they do it in tiers. You could buy yourself a tier 9 tank. You're never going to get to a tier 10 tank from it. You have to go back and start at the beginning and work your way up. So it has you can advance by paying money, but you don't have to. So I kind of like that theory. It just lets people get things faster, which I'm okay with. Which is pretty much what PlanetSide 2's done.
PlanetSide 2 is more of a side grade than it is an upgrade, though.
they have some cooler stuff, but it's not completely overpowered. It's not, I bought this gun, so now I kick everybody's butt.
I'm still picturing a World of Tanks 2012 expansion. The forum posts that would ensue. Unmanned drones, so overpowered.
Actually, there's every type of tank driver. There's 5, 6 types of tanks. Every person specializes in one certain certain kind, just like you would in any other game. And every one of them will complain about one of the other kinds. It's funny. Like the light drivers complain about the medium tanks that are fast and have fast rates of fire. The medium tanks complain because the heavy tanks can one-shot them. The heavy tanks complain because the artillery hits them. The artillery complains because the light tanks are so fast that they get up on top of them and kill them.
It's all. I mean, someone's always going to have something to complain about when it comes to a competitive game. Always, 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 always. It's just a matter of whether or not the developers are intelligent enough to know, okay, this person is full of garbage. They just got curb stomped in a game, and now they're complaining.
For being a free-to-play game, I gotta say, they do pay attention to the community. Like, there was they released a premium tank, one of the ones you had to buy. It was a Type 59. It was a Chinese tank. It's actually a Russian tank the Chinese bought and modified. Anyway, it's way, way overpowered when it first came out. It was a medium. It was extremely fast, had a huge gun, tons of armor, and it was just dominating the game. And everybody says, this tank is broken. And they went, yeah, it is. And then they went through and they lowered the armor and they slowed it down a little bit. And they actually went too far. And then everybody who bought one was complaining that they spent money on it and now it sucked. And so they've done a good job of tweaking it back and forth, and they finally balanced it out. But every time something new comes in, of course, it completely upsets the whole balance.
It's impossible to perfectly balance something, especially in a game that has so many. I mean, goodness gracious, Dota 2, League of Legends. Imagine the nightmare that is balancing that game with hundreds of champions.
There's probably at least 100 tanks in that game, and every tank has multiple parts that can be swapped out in exchange. You can change your tracks, you can change your turrets, you can change your guns, you can change the radios. And then on top of all that, you can swap out, there's extra add-on parts you can buy, like there's a thing called the shell rammer, which makes your gun reload faster. Little things like that. There's binoculars for your commander to make his view range farther. And so, yeah, you got to balance all that stuff, too. I can't imagine. It's got to be a nightmare. But yeah, every time something new comes in, it unbalances everything. Everybody freaks out about it. And then within a week or two, it's all leveled back out. They put this little... What?
That's a quick response time. I mean, I remember when Season 1 had released of League of Legends, there were 2 to 3 champions that had been released. And they were just terribly overpowered. And Riot kind of drug their feet on balancing them. They were curb stomping God knows how many games. I mean, every single match that I played at the start of Season 1 had a Xin Zhao or a Vlad in it.
Yeah, see, these guys are good at balancing, but sometimes they overcompensate. So it does take a little while for it to level out. The worst had to be, and I'm still complaining about it today, I pretty much drive one of every tank. I own like 30 tanks now. And artillery. Everybody complained because artillery was overpowered. So then they made them really inaccurate, which it was alright. And then they complained because they weren't accurate enough. So then they boosted that back up. Now they put a tracer. So every time you fire a shell, it leaves a tracer. So you have other artillery on the other team who just basically parks and aims at your side of the map. And when they see a tracer come out of a bush, that's where they fire. It's really annoying. Anyway, sorry, you were talking about League of Legends.
Oh.
And then I cut you off.
They've gotten better. Dota 2 released an overpowered champion not too long ago, and they fixed it within a couple weeks as well. So I think
talk about that game.
Dota 2?
Yes. I actually had not even heard of that game until last week.
It's a great game.
And
are we talking about it later?
We can go into it later if you want to wait.
No, I have it on my list here, so I can talk about it a lot now, but
yeah, we'll wait.
I'll talk about it a lot later too.
I forgot we talked about that before the show, and I completely forgot. So yeah, we'll bring that up later.
I do have one more piece of news, and I'm going to try and just read this off. I do not want to take sides or make anyone upset. I'm going to read it off just verbatim from the quote, and then a couple of the responses from the people I know in the game industry who had some funny things to say about it.
His views do not reflect the opinions of OGR.
Okay. After the Sandy Hook massacre in Sandy Hook, or Newtown, Connecticut, the National Rifle Association came out with an official statement, and I'll just read the quote. Let the quote kind of stand for itself, because it does have to do with video games. They called the video games, quote, the filthiest form of pornography.
They've obviously never been to Germany. Sorry.
The quote is, and here's another dirty little truth that the media try their best to conceal. There exists in this country a callous, corrupt, and corrupting shadow industry that sells and sows violence against its own people through vicious, violent video games with names like Bulletstorm, Grand Theft Auto, Mortal Kombat, and Splatterhouse. Video games are the filthiest form of pornography. And the quote kind of stands out for itself, but what I thought was pretty funny about it was some of the responses that I saw on Facebook, Twitter, etc. to this quote, where several of the developers were going, "I'm part of a shadow industry! Awesome!"
Now, see, I had a article. Of course, I don't have the link anymore. I'll try to throw it in the show notes. But I actually had an article, and I think it was, I want to say it was ABC News. Normally, I despise network news, but they did a really good article, an investigative thing about violence in video games transferring to real-life violence.
Mm-hmm.
And they went around to all these different people. They went to these different experts and did studies. They actually did research. They just didn't side with whatever the current trend was.
Mm-hmm.
And they had this several different experts and a bunch of different people from Congress and all this stuff saying that basically there has never been a study that concluded that violence in video games led to real-life violence. Ever.
No. And
they even
I'm sorry.
They even compared it to the 1950s. Apparently, the exact same scenario was going on, and they were blaming comic books for making children violent. And Congress was saying how much of a bunch of bull that was, that if they thought their children were so simple that merely reading a comic book could lead them to violence, then there was something else wrong with this country.
Well, there are other countries that play games more than we do. I mean, Canada, South Korea, for goodness sakes. Gaming is their national sport.
Yes. The World Cyber Gaming League is based out of Korea. Right,
and I think the problem stems a lot larger than that, but it's still funny to see that, how much finger pointing goes on in the sense. And I do, I'm a psychology person. I've done a lot of, I had to do a lot of research on this because I ran a study on video games when I was doing my undergrad. And you do find, exactly as you say, that video games do not directly contribute to violence. They don't necessarily offer a catalyst to this, but, they don't actually offer a catalyst to violence. Instead, they can kind of be something that gives these maniacs something to kind of go into a little fantasy world and live out their fantasy, but it does not necessarily one-to-one translate to that. There has never really been a case where video games have directly caused an act of aggression. So
yeah, they had some doctor on from the pediatricians something. I can't remember. I wish I could find the link. And he was the one trying to convince people, oh, yes, it does, despite the fact that everybody in every study ever conducted says no. This one guy kept, oh, it does. So, but I was
any meta-analysis that you find on video games does not find any connection. And if the connection is there, it's very, very, very weak. And most of the time when they do see an effect, it's an outlier. It's something that they can kind of say, well, we did see it here, but it doesn't necessarily translate into most of the other things. And anyone that tells you otherwise, unless more research comes out. I mean, I did perform this study about 2 to 3 years ago, so it is pretty current. Unless new evidence comes out, at this point, the consensus is no, does not happen, does not cause. And that's all the news I got. That's it. My list is empty.
See, it's idiots like those guys that give the whole NRA a bad name.
Well, there are plenty of responsible gun owners. Plenty.
Yep.
We shouldn't have, one guy that represents everything. It's like running around saying dumb, stupid stuff like this. And he got called out for it pretty dang bad.
Well, did you see their solution that they posted? They wanted to arm all the teachers. Which I thought was another extremely dumb statement.
Politics alert. Politics alert. Red Simon.
Yeah, not going into that anymore, but... Anyway. What else do we have? We're skipping that one. Legends of Norrath had a new set. We kind of skipped last show as well.
How the heck did I miss that?
I know, this stuff is all on my notes.
I'm going to have some of my SOE friends coming and bashing me over the head for not talking about that big piece of us. Dang it.
It was Dead of the Watonga. I even have all the loot cards, because that's the only part most people I know care about. Because the card game itself, let's face it, is really way overcomplicated.
I like the card game.
I've met one person who actually plays the card game.
2.
And I actually, the one guy I know goes through and does it on everybody else's so that they can get the rewards.
Well, they give you some loot cards, or at least
exactly.
They used to back when I played it. Like, I have the Giggle Giver Goblin Giver, which is a catapult that launches a goblin that explodes into fireworks. And I got that, not from a loot card, but from playing the actual set.
See, now I played Magic, I played Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in the day, I played Illuminati, and that game is just way too overcomplicated.
Could be simpler, but I actually like the complicated nature of the game.
And the fact that I know the couple of people I do know play the actual tournaments, and they cycle the cards out way too fast. And the problem they run into is it's to get you to buy more cards. Any game does it. Even Magic has their different types, and you can only use certain cards in each. And they'll cycle the cards out, so you got to constantly update your deck to make it legal to play in the tournaments. But at the same time, you go back to try to do some of the campaign or single-player games, and it won't let you use the deck because the cards you're using weren't out when they when they made the scenario.
And I remember when they first started doing that, and there was a lot of forum posts of people complaining. I think that they kind of figured out the hard way that with a physical trading card game, the feelings of possession and ownership are a lot different than a digital trading card game.
Yep.
Because when someone has a physical card and they buy like a Magic card, they feel differently about that than they do if they buy a digital card. When you take away the digital cards and you say you can't use them, you're basically telling them that they wasted their money. They can't really...
Now, the Magic has an online version, Magic Online, and it's been very popular. And it's the same setup. You have to buy the actual cards. You buy virtual booster packs. Open them up, you get virtual cards. But if you collect an entire set of cards, every single card from one set, you can cash those in, and they will mail you a set of those cards. So it's not a complete loss that you're paying for virtual items. Because there's a chance if you manage to collect the whole set, you can get something back out of it. And a complete set of cards for Magic, you're looking at $200-$300.
Which adds up quickly.
Granted, you're going to spend that much to get them, but... But yeah, I even play the version of Magic I play online comes with preset decks. And you can swap out a handful of cards, but... I pay 99 cents for an entire expansion that comes with 5 new decks, so...
That's not bad.
And even if they decide to take the servers down, I can still play the game.
Duels of the Plainswalkers, is that what you're talking about?
Yep. Which I think I had on my list somewhere. Yeah, it's on here somewhere. I kind of like the 2013 Duel of the Plainswalker. They added a couple really cool new features, but at the same time, they took out one of my favorite features of the 2012 version. And they still have not added Commander as a game type, even though it's like one of the most popular Magic game types currently.
PC Gamer ripped Duels of the Plainswalkers a new rear end, if I remember right.
It's a good game. It was designed for consoles, so the PC version feels very limited because I think the original plan was to make the console version and the PC version compatible. So it's basically the exact same game, but then they ran into licensing issues between Microsoft and Sony and whatnot, and they couldn't do it.
As is always the case.
Yeah, so the game itself was designed originally to work functionally with the console ones. So as a PC game, it is extremely limited, and the interface is kind of clunky. But that was the reasoning.
They said that one of the reasons, or at least one of the reasons they cited in their review, was that the computer AI opponents seem to always be able to draw that one card that they need. Doesn't matter. I mean, they'll replay the thing over and over again, and they'll try a different tactic and go, "Aha! I have a new tactic now." You know, they can't possibly, and then they'll get that one card that they just so happen to need at that time, and they'll play it, and your tactic is screwed over.
Yep, that does happen. But that's happened in all of the Duel of the Plainswalker games. I've had the last 3. I think it happens less.
So either the deck is stacked, they can draw a card from wherever the deck they want, or they're extremely lucky.
I look at it too, though. You got to imagine how extremely complex it must be to program those AIs, because just the different amount of variables they have to take into account when they're playing.
I don't even want to think about how complicated that is. Oh my goodness.
Because you think there's at least 60 cards in the deck, and it has to know, whatever's in its hand, whatever it could possibly draw, whatever it has mana to cast, whatever you have in play.
You said 300 cards a set, too?
Well, it's more than that.
Oof.
But yeah, there's a minimum of 60 cards in each deck, and I think you can unlock, I think it ends up being like 80 or 90, and then you can swap them out, any of the ones you unlock versus any that were already in the deck. But you can't go below 60 is the only thing. But you can literally leave all of them in if you want. So yeah, it has to figure out all of those and all the different combos and what it can do, what you can do. I'm actually surprised the AI in that game plays as well as it does. It's possible that they put in a slight version of cheating in there just so the thing could actually, compensate. But there are some cool, there's like a challenge mode where there's a couple of them in the new one where it always draws and plays the exact same cards. And you have to basically devise a strategy to beat it. And then they have, I'm not sure what they're actually called. I think those are actually called challenges, where you have to win the game. It gives you a game that's in the middle of a game. And with what you have in your hand and what you have in play, you have to win the game that turn. Yeah. And some of them are really easy. It's just a combo of like 2 cards. Other ones are like, you have to do this 25-step process and all in the right order at the exact right timing in order to win. You either need a lot of trial and error or a walkthrough. Yeah, you just really need to... Yeah, some of them, I mean, I've been playing for years, and some of them I couldn't even fathom the way that they did them out. I ended up having to look up quite a few of them. And then there's other ones you look at for like 2 seconds, you're like, oh, that's easy. We got way off topic again.
It happens.
Defiance. It's that game with the thing and the stuff and the...
That's coming out next year.
It's coming out next year.
That's got Domino on it.
That's got Domino on it and a bunch of other people. I met with the senior community manager. His name is Daniel Chin. I'm not sure his gamer tag, but... and we are quite possibly going to have a guest from the dev team either on next show or very soon, if not next show. The show is coming out April 2013, and the game should come out slightly before that. Unfortunately, that's about all I can say about it. They have a really cool advertisement thing that's on right now. In-game, there's different manufacturers and distributors, and there's one called Von Bach Industries, and they have their own website. Let me look it up. I think it's actually vonbach.com or something.
Spelled how?
I'm looking it up right now. Greetings from Von Bach Industries. It is not loading. It is VONBACH Industries, no space, .com. And they have a bunch of really cool, they're kind of promos for the game, but they're done like commercials for the manufacturer of Von Bach Industries.
Oh, that is neat.
And the whole website, it literally looks like a business website, and they're promoting their new weapons technology and their new ego technology and all these cool things. So it looks like you're on a real company's website. And I'm curious, I asked them on Twitter today if they were going to do this for all the other in-game companies.
And their response?
I haven't heard back from them yet, unfortunately.
Oh, darn. I know so many people that are saying, I want a good sci-fi MMO to come out. Good sci-fi MMO, give it to me. Maybe this will be their chance.
But yeah, if you get a chance to look through some of the videos on there, they have one dedicated to different weapons technology, and there's one about becoming an Arc Hunter. There's one about if you get a job with them, they'll supply you with the best technology. They're pretty cool stuff. And it shows a lot of, like, there's some in-game graphics and cutscenes and things that weren't in the trailers. So, lots of cool stuff on that page. I actually haven't gotten too far into it yet. Though the question I have is, where is it? It's on the page somewhere. Oh, I'm not logged in, that's why it's not showing it. There is at the bottom, no, it's in the middle of the page. There is a countdown to mission launch, and there's a timer.
Maybe a beta invite countdown? Or beta test start countdown?
It says, attention, VBI is offering ego technology to all Arc Hunters joining the VBI Advanced Mission Beta, an exclusive opportunity for in-the-field combat exploration brought to you by your partners at Defiance. Please register now for your chance to join the next live mission. And there's a 17-day, 13-hour timer running.
It does look like a beta. I mean, if I keep on scrolling down the thing, register for Arc Hunter training, please select your platform, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC are options. So
yep.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but maybe.
Do you like the disclaimer at the bottom, too? Please consult a medical professional before considering ego implantment. Von Bach Industries assumes no responsibility for illness, mutilation, or fatality resulting from unsuitable host integration.
I want to know who the heck wrote that.
Oh, I love this. The whole website is really cool, and I'm really looking forward. I hope that they do this for each of the different companies, but in the least, it is a really new take on advertising.
Very clever.
So I thought it was cool. But yeah, definitely looks like some sort of beta. It's listed as Von Bach Industry Advanced Mission Beta. Definitely looks cool. I got a link to that in my email the other day. So
how long was the countdown again? 14 days?
17 days.
So we won't be able to say whether or not it was indeed beta by the next show.
Why? Well, it'll be 14 days. Maybe there'll be more information by then.
Maybe.
Okay, that was on my list. What else I got?
All you now.
All me now.
Back during when you were sending me messages on Christmas, I had more items than you did. Where the heck did all this come from?
I've got more. Now, this is something that I mentioned to you. This is actually a new thing that I just wrote down today, actually. And When we first started doing the show, we started planning it last summer. I don't remember when our first episode was. August, September, sometime in then. We did a web search looking for the name Game On. We came across one podcast named Game On. Had been around for a few years. It had just been canceled this summer. And then there was like an internet cafe somewhere in California and a girls' sports summer camp type thing. And that was it. So we said, cool. We used the name. We registered it. We got all the stuff around. Got our emails ready. Got the show all promoted. And then probably a month later, I found another site using Game On. And they do MMO pre-recorded podcasts. And I thought, great, no big deal. It's a small one and it hasn't been around that long. And then just before Christmas, I found a couple other ones. And then a few days ago, I found a couple more. And apparently, Game On is used a lot by a lot of different places for podcasts. But for some reason, they didn't show up when we searched. So the question is, do we keep the name or starting in the new year, come up with a new name for the show?
My honest opinion is that Game On is such a popular title, I guess you could say, when it comes to anything gaming related. So
nobody has it trademarked. That's the important thing.
No, but I mean, if you want to be unique, then yes. If you don't care that likely there's going to be a lot more Game Ons coming out in the future, then no, we can leave it alone.
Curel says to call it Game Monday. That sounds too much like a stripper club for... never mind. Is it Game Monday or Gay Monday? Now I get you thinking. No, that won't work. But yeah, so I'm going to let you guys out there. You think we should keep the name, change the name? No, we're not changing it to EQ Tuesday.
Hey, why not?
That show might come back. I've had some people expressing interest in hosting it, so we'll have to see about that.
I play way too many games to do a single game show. Ugh.
I've actually contemplated going back to doing my radio show, too, my music show. I did that for a while. Anyway, on the same note as other podcasts, I have been talking to some people about bringing some new shows onto OGR. More game-related shows. Though I guess Leo, the station manager, is also looking at some non-game-related shows. We're basically trying to fill the schedule back in. We used to have a ton of shows, and they've one by one kind of gone away. Usually what happens is the game they're associated with fades out. One of them I'm not going to mention because it's not a definite yet, and I don't want to get anybody's hopes up. The other one is actually, and I know I'm going to butcher his name, there is a guy called... How do you pronounce it? We were talking about this before the show.
The Dota 2 guy?
Kalbur. It's Kalbur. Goes by the name Kalbur Defiance, or Defiance Cal. Depends on what forum you look him up in. He currently does a video stream on Twitch TV all the time about DOTA 2 and a bunch of other games, but mostly DOTA 2. And we talked to him about doing a show, and he seems extremely interested in it, so keep an eye out for that. Still ironing out the logistics of it, but...
Dota 2 podcasts and live streams are very popular.
Oh, there's always
popular.
Tons of people in his video stream, so... I've been hanging out in there. You probably see me ranting to him on Twitter. Me and him talk back and forth all the time.
What is this thing called Tweeter?
Tweeter? I don't know. I actually said to him, what's this thing called DOTA?
I will educate you. I
had not ever heard of it. It looks like a cross between Gauntlet and a RTS game.
It I mean, the best way that I can put DOTA is that it kind of was the father of its own genre. I mean, I hate to say that because someone will always come back to me and say,
this was
no, so-and-so came out first. But the MOBA genre was kind of jumped off of Dota, which was a mod for Warcraft 3, an extremely popular mod. They were doing, back before it even was Dota 2, they were doing tournaments for money based off of this mod for Warcraft 3. And Valve apparently got IceFrog, who was one of the big developers of Dota, the original Dota, and put them on a team, and lo and behold, we have Dota 2, which is the official game now, instead of just the mod, and it uses a lot of the same champions, mechanics, styles. It uses the Source engine.
It's a really popular game, too. I can't believe I didn't hear of it sooner.
It outdoes Halo matches, to my understanding. There's more people that are playing Dota at any given time than Halo. So it is extremely popular. I think that League of Legends still beats it out.
Depends on where you get your numbers, too, because according to certain websites, there's more World of Tanks games going on than Halo games. So.
Maybe Halo just is not that popular. I don't know.
It was a good game.
Popular than Halo! Well,
I actually, what
know.
I give Halo credit for is it was one of the few games in this generation of games that still has a freaking story mode.
I have all that matters.
Yeah, but see, that's the best part. I don't much care for online shooters. Because you always got the one guy who plays 24 hours a day, 8 days a week, lives in his mom's basement, has 5 million headshots.
Did I lose a day somewhere?
It's a Beatles song.
Oh.
Am I that old?
I feel ignorant now. You're either that old or I'm that young. I don't know.
That's it. I'm queuing the song up after the show. But yeah, there's always this one guy who does online shooters like that, and he spawns, you die. He spawns, you die. I played on a gaming team. We did a bunch of online games. We did MechWarrior. We did Freelancer. We did all sorts of stuff. We got into Battlefield 2 when it first came out, and we joined a league, and we were doing good in the amateur leagues. And we challenged up to the next league higher than us once. Our entire team, it was a 5-on-5 game. We were wiped out in less than 30 seconds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like, they had a guy on their team that the second go was called started lobbing grenades from their spawn into the other spawn. They had actually measured the angle and everything that they needed to literally drop them right in the middle of our spawn. Which is why we don't much care for online games, online shooters.
And they still have not. My kid brother plays the thing, and I'll catch him so every so often playing it. And they have not removed bunny hopping. I remember when I played competitive shooters, that was the one thing that drove me crazy. Was that everyone was jumping around like a jackrabbit.
What was it? One of the Battlefield games, they actually put an endurance bar in, and you could only jump so many times till it was down, and then you had to wait for it to come back up.
Not Halo.
Not Halo.
Everyone's jumping.
They do that a lot in other games too. What was I gonna say? You made me lose my train of thought. Seriously, you made me lose my train of thought. What was it?
What the heck did make you lose your train of thought? You were the one that brought up the Halo games.
I know. I started reading something in here in between that.
We should probably get to our best games and worst games, though, before we run out of time like we did last time.
Yes, we should. And I have some official, actually, best and worst of.
Did you get some stuff from other news sources?
Yeah, I wanna hit the one because I think it's pretty cool. I am a Guild Wars 2 fan. I love the game. It needs more to it, which I'm sure it will get. It's new, so. But, it pulled in an award for Best PC Graphics, MMO of the Year, Player's Choice MMO of the Year, Best PC Game of the Year, and Player's Choice Best PC Game of the Year. I thought that was pretty impressive for a brand new game.
Which sites gave it that?
IGN and PC Gamer.
Yeah, PC Gamer I know gave it MMO of the Year. PC Gamer also gave PlanetSide 2.
Shooter of the Year.
Yeah, Shooter of the Year.
IGN gave PlanetSide 2 Best Multiplayer PC Game of the Year. But what I thought was kind of funny is on IGN's, PlanetSide 2 didn't even make the top 5 on Best Shooter of the Year.
It does not have as much exposure. The Forge-Lite engine requires quite a bit of hardware to run.
Well, not only that, but being a free game, I think a lot of people overlook it. I mean, it's not even a buy the game, play for free. It's free. You click on a link on the website and download it. And I think a lot of people see that and just kind of skimmed over and went, oh, okay.
But being it's player-driven, if they keep up with the updates, they should retain players and get in new ones. I mean, League of Legends kind of started small, and now it's one of, quote-unquote, the most played PC game ever. So, give it time.
Well,
it's off to a good
was
start.
the same way. When that first started, it was really slow, and now it's, a year and a half into it, and I just happened to load it up right now, and there's 26,600 players on the North American server right now. Which, being 10 o'clock on New Year's Eve, is an awful lot of people from North America. I've seen that number get up into the hundreds of thousands.
So, top 5 games. Then worst 5 games. Well, you want to go in reverse order? Yeah, most disappointing games. Who wants to go first? And you want to go in reverse order so we can save number 1 for last?
Yeah, that was the plan.
Okay. Who's first?
Which list do you want to start with first?
Let's do the top.
The top.
Because it's more fun to rant. I think people like listening to worst lists more than they do top lists.
Number 5 on my top was Magic the Gathering Duel of the Plainswalkers 2013, which we already sort of talked about. I know you're going to laugh that even made my list.
No,
It
made one of the Escapists top 5 games to one of the big strategy people.
It is an excellent game. It has lots and lots of replay value. You get one deck completely unlocked for free, and then there's, I want to say 10 or 12 other decks in the base game, and each of them have about 30 cards locked that you have to go through and unlock by beating opponents. And it has a couple new multiplayer modes that are really fun. They added Two-Headed Giant, which anybody who plays Magic should know. And Plane Chase, which recently came back since they released a new Plane Chase set last year. My only gripe with it was that it's lacking the Arch Enemy mode, which was in last year's 2012 version of the game, which I really enjoy. And, of course, deck customization. But they're never going to put full deck customization in Duel of the Plainswalkers because they want you to go buy Magic Online.
Yep.
So I can deal with it. The only thing I'd like to see them add is the ability, once you unlock cards and decks and whatnot, that you should be able to take all of the cards you own from all of the decks and mix and match them and build your own deck. And I think the reason they don't do that is because that would make programming the AI a nightmare.
I've heard a lot of good things about Duels of the Plainswalkers. The only reason that I have not really picked it up is that Magic has kind of been... I played it when I was very young. Well, not very young, but still young. And just since I stopped playing it, it's kind of been blowing over my head. I just haven't really thought about it. But the people that have played it, they love it.
I stopped playing for like 6 years. And when we went to Fanfare... trying to think of which year it was, 2009. They gave us the Magic the Gathering Tactics was just coming out. It was just being previewed.
2010 that year.
And they gave us all a promo deck, a little 40-card starter deck, and that got me back into playing because we were bored one night in Vegas and we all broke them out and played.
Don't they do tournaments every year? Or didn't they used to? Huh.
They do big Magic tournaments all the time.
I mean, in Vegas, for Fanfare, there's a lot of people that play Magic.
Not that I know of. I took some cards down there and played with some people because a bunch of the SOE devs play, and a couple of them brought decks down the one year and we played. But yeah, that Magic itself is thriving and well. They put out a new set every 3 months or so, and they're still doing World Championships. Yeah, I think it's every 3 months that a set comes out. And there's they call it a block, and there's three sets in a block, 2 blocks a year, and then 1 core set a year. Except like cars, for some strange reason, the core sets come out a year ahead of time. Like this summer, actually it was this end of spring, beginning of summer, the M2013 set came out, which is when Duel of the Plainswalkers 2013 came out. So, yeah, they're a year ahead. It's weird. Anyway, what was your number 5?
Number 5 for me was Torchlight 2.
I have heard of it. I never got to play it.
Well, very few people, in my opinion, outdo Blizzard's Diablo 2, or even Diablo-esque games, I guess you could say. Very few people outdo Blizzard.
You say 3, I'm going to have to smack you.
I think that Torchlight 2 is better than Diablo 3. That's my opinion.
Better than Diablo 3.
I guess it does make sense though that they did manage to quote unquote outdo Diablo, as a lot of the people that were on the Torchlight 2 team headed or were on the team for Diablo 2. So you do see a lot of carryover, but it has great loot, great characterization. My friend and I were both playing the same class. And they did completely different things. Different weapons, different abilities. It's a really, really good game. It's addictive. I have actually yet to completely and totally beat it. I think I rolled one of every class thus far, trying to find my niche of it, but every time I do play a character, it's just a very well-crafted game, and I'll have to give Runic my hats off, because they have continued to update that thing. Like, every other week, there's a huge patch fixing issues and all that other stuff. So
I think it was
good on them.
From SOE who was a big Torchlight 2 fan.
See, it's a fantastic game. Cannot say enough good things about it. So you're number 4. What do you got?
Everybody's gonna laugh at this one. At least it's this far down. I got Borderlands 2.
Why would everyone laugh at that?
That it's so far down the list. That game is hysterical. I love it.
It isn't even on my list.
Alright, that's the second time I'm firing you tonight.
I'll see if I can get to 3.
There's one game, if it's not on your list, I am going to fire you.
Okay, yes, I do remember Borderlands 2. I played it. It was... Okay, the one scene that stands out in my mind was that one quest where you had to go out and study the... what were they called? The big brutes. The big ice brute things. What were they called?
I don't remember.
Oh, goodness.
Bullymongs,
that's right. Thank you, Bullymong. He was studying Bullymongs, and he was trying to trademark a name for the Bullymong, and he comes up with a bunch of them, and every single time he finds one, he finds that it's already trademarked or taken or patented. And at the very end of the quest, he finally gets just so frustrated, so enraged, he's just like, fine, we'll call them boner farts. And then the entire name of all the Bullymongs on the screen changes to boner fart, and I was just rolling in laughter. My friend's like, yeah, because we're 12, right? So yes, the humor was great. It's just some of the mechanics did not really resonate well enough with me to put it on my top 5.
Aww. It got like rave reviews. I think the lowest review I ever saw for it was like a 98.
The big issue that I had with Borderlands was that the requests had you keep on going back to the same spot, and they would repopulate that spot. And I remember this one quest where you're having to go out and do something for the worshippers of the Firehawk, and it has you go back to an earlier dungeon that you already completed, and it's completely and totally repopulated with monsters. You have to clear everything, including the boss, just to flip the lever. And at that point, I'm like, no, I can't do this.
I just liked it for the co-op.
I will agree. Best co-op experience, aside from Torchlight, that I've seen in a long time. It was a great co-op experience.
It was the best co-op game I've played since, what's the Left 4 Dead 2?
Okay.
Silence. You didn't like that.
love Left 4 Dead 2.
Okay, what's your number 4?
Dota 2.
It's like
And
that
yes,
game again.
I know, but well, they, I guess technically it's still in beta. But they are selling it on Steam, and PC Gamer did a review. A couple other places did a review of it because they're like, well, they're selling it, so I guess it's not really beta anymore, even though it technically is.
Now, this is a ploy that started with
Minecraft?
Facebook games.
Oh.
And by leaving it as beta, listed as beta, they can pretty much change anything in the game at any time. But once you say it's the final version, and then you go to change something, people have paid money for a final version of the game, and then it comes into all sorts of lawsuit issues, and there's only so much you can do after it's an official release.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the exact wording on it, but it was an issue that came up many times with like Farmville and things. Or if you look, they're still listed as beta, even though they've been out for years.
But the reason that it hit number 4 on my list, I think I've invested 400 playing hours in that game already.
Wow.
A ridiculous amount of hours, and I keep on going back, and it's still fun. They keep on releasing new champions, and it's, for the most part, there was one champion that was released that was overpowered. He was fixed within a month. It's really well balanced. Like, extremely well balanced. Crazy well balanced.
Here's a question. If someone was to just start playing, can you play against people who are different level and still have a chance?
Yes, they do have a leveling system, though Valve...
I know it has like a
probably
ranking
needs to-
system that pairs up matches.
They do need to tweak it because you level really, really slowly, and the leveling system doesn't quite work as well as it could. So people are going to level 1 for a very, very long time. I guess is a good thing if you're starting out. But they do have bot matches that you can do as well.
And they have
the only issue I have with the bot matches is that the bots are a little too coordinated. They will perfectly execute a combo every single time.
Gee, kind of like the Magic Plainswalker.
Yep. You will see in quick succession area effect stun plus every single area effect spell on their team fire at once on your team. And what the heck happened? Everyone's dead. Why? But great game. I will keep on playing it. They did cute little holiday updates for it too.
Hey.
I think it's better than League of Legends. I'm gonna
Hey.
Huh?
I got you on this one. DOTA 2 was released in 2011.
What? No, it was released in beta.
It said
They
they
did
had
not-
an international global championship hosted at Gamescom 2011 with a $1 million prize.
But that was still a beta build.
You said it's still in beta.
Well, they have it priced up. You can buy it on Steam. You could not buy it on Steam before.
I'm just saying, it says 2011. It is also a part of the World Cyber Games Championship in Korea. Starting in 2012 as an official game.
I will say that for a beta, it's an extremely completed product. I don't know. It did release in beta last year, but they didn't start charging for it until this year.
Ouch. Sorry.
And at that point in time, that was when a lot of other gaming news places were like, okay, they're charging for it. We'll call it a release and do some scores. And that's what they did. Alright, quickly before I'm embarrassed more on the show, your number 3.
My number 3
February.
was... This is the one that you're going to disagree with. I have Halo 4.
Why would I disagree with that?
Because we were talking before, you didn't like Halo 4.
I thought it looked exactly like most of the other Halos, but to each their own.
Now see, and this also we talked about before, is I'm not a big fan of multiplayer online shooters. Tried them, was never big on them. After Battlefield 2, I really haven't played any. But I'm a fan of the single-player campaign storyline. And the single-player storyline to Halo 4 was really good and really well done. And because I'm old and I'm no longer a how do you put it, as coordinated as I used to be, I cannot play with an Xbox controller to save my life. If it doesn't have a mouse and keyboard, you shouldn't be playing games on it. That said, my son absolutely loves the game, and he played through the whole thing, so I got to watch all the cutscenes and everything from him playing through. So, I thought it was an amazing game. The graphics were really good. The storyline was good. I'm a big fan of the Forge engine. Or not engine, whatever you call it. The Forge mode that they have where you can literally build whatever you want.
Oh, yeah, they have a level creator.
Yeah, it's called Forge.
I saw my brother playing Halo 3, and he had a Forge level where you had to do, like, you had to navigate a warthog across this really narrow, giant maze in the sky that it was really easy to fall off of.
My son is obsessed with, after watching me play Guild Wars 2 and doing the jumping puzzles, he was obsessed with building one, so he actually built an entire level in Forge that he calls the Super Mario Brothers level. And you literally have to climb up on these things and jump from block to block and walk down balance beams, and you go through this whole thing, and all the weapons are at the end. So until you get to the end, you don't have any weapons to fight anybody with.
That is hilarious.
Other than, like, punching people if they get too close. So you got to work your way through this entire thing to get a gun to kill the other people.
Punching is fatal in that game. 2 punches, you're dead.
Yeah, but not when you're on a platform 100 feet up in the air.
True.
Because if you swing and miss and they jump out of the way, you fall off the platform and you die and you have to start over. Meanwhile, they have a huge head start towards the guns. It was a lot of fun to screw around with, though. But yeah, he's tried to make some racetracks and things for the Warthogs. It was pretty interesting. But anyway, like I said, the campaign was the big thing that drew me in. It's a very in-depth story.
And more shooters need that because a lot of shooters are just abandoning that.
Exactly. I think Crysis was the last one that actually had a storyline to it.
Like when Game Informer put a Call of Duty villain as his #1 villain of the year, I'm like, what? Call of Duty has a story? Huh? A story worthwhile?
I think the Battlefield franchise learned their lesson because they went without a storyline for a while, and then they came out with the Bad Company series and went back to having a story.
Battlefield 3 story sucked.
Yeah. I didn't say they were good, I just said they were trying.
Not true. Alright, number 3 for me. This one, I don't think anyone else played it. And if you did, I want to see you type in that freaking chat channel. Number 3 for me was Silent Hill Downpour.
I did not play it. I have not been a Silent Hill fan.
I am a huge survival horror fan. Huge survival horror fan. And it is I hate the fact that survival horror is kind of a dying industry. But the reason that Silent Hill Downpour resonated with me was that finally, since Silent Hill 4 The Room, a company gets it. Silent Hill is a character. It's not just a town, it's a character that screws around with your characters. It has just as many thoughts and feelings and actions as any of the characters in there. And just all the symbology and symbolism, and the story was really good, and it was pretty dang scary. I mean, you got to explore the town for the first time. On foot, the entire town. It had a map. You could walk around. There wasn't anything barred. You could keep on going back and forth and find different side missions, and it was really cool.
What did you think about the movie?
The most recent one?
Yeah.
Revelations 3D, I did not see it. I saw the original one.
That's Resident Evil. I was talking about Silent Hill.
Yeah, Silent Hill Revelations 3D.
Okay, maybe I'm getting confused.
I haven't seen it. I was going to see it, but they didn't have very many showtimes of it when I went to try and see it. The only ones that they had were 3D, and I can't do 3D. I can see the shutters. Gives me a headache. But the original one, I actually did kind of like the original one. I thought that
They changed a little bit of the story, but...
They did. It was a little more gore-porny than I would have liked, but you know what? I think that the actors really did try. The script was kind of bad, but that's kind of what happens when you have a French director trying to communicate with American actors about a Japanese game. Gets lost in translation.
It's the whole Mario fiasco all over again.
Yep. So number 2 for you.
Number 2 for me, PlanetSide 2. Not only is it an awesome game, it's free, and it pretty much, I think, is going to change the way people look at shooters, or at least the market for shooters. It's not, I'm trying to think of the way for it. It's not going to be a competitive game like Halo, you know, when you see things like DOTA 2 that are very team-based and you have to work together to do things. This one's more of an open multiplayer. You're helping the other people because they're part of your community.
Well, that's where Sony did it right with that game. The game is not about the content that they feed you. The game is about the content that you create for other players.
Exactly.
It's a constant tug of war, and it's great.
IGN had an excellent review of PlanetSide 2, and I'm going to put that in the show notes. But they basically gave the goods and the bads. There is some bugs in it. It is new. It needs some ironing here and there, but the game itself is really well put together. There's very little lag, even when there's hundreds of players fighting.
Yeah, I was surprised. It's like, wow, this game looks great. It's gorgeous. And I have at least 30 frames per second. What the heck is going on here?
Now, the requirements are a bit steep, but that's kind of to be expected. I mean, it's no higher than other games that have recently come out. But yeah, I really like the game. I like the way it's set up. I talked about it earlier, how basically you can pay to get other things, but it's not a pay-to-win game. They give you a slight edge, but not enough that's going to turn the tide.
It isn't even really an edge, it's a side grade. So, like, you might get a gun that has a lot less recoil, but is uber accurate.
And the other thing is that even if one player is amazingly good in that, because of the fact that there's literally hundreds of players per side in the battles, one player isn't going to turn the tide of battle alone. Which is what happens in a lot of other shooter games, is basically you get that one guy who's an excellent shot, who's a sniper that's up in the tower, and when you're playing 5-on-5 or 10-on-10, you know, he's going to pick you off every time. You walk out of the spawn, you get shot.
I just realized how silly that analogy was. A lot less recoil, uber accurate. I mean, like, a lot less recoil and next to no damage. That's probably a better way of putting it.
But yeah, in this game, you know, there's 100 other players on your team. If one guy shoots you, the chances of that same guy shooting you again
is next to none.
Yeah, because somebody's going to get him and see where he's shooting from and things. So while it doesn't promote the competitive play that you see in a lot of other online shooters, you still have to work together as a team, but it's more of a community-based. Like you were saying, they give you the maps, they give you the guns, and you make up the story, basically.
Mm-hmm. I will give them credit, too, because it's really, really easy for a game to come out like that and to write next to no lore, because probably, especially in shooters, some of the hardcore shooter people don't really care about that stuff.
Yep.
I know I'm stereotyping. Again, more flames coming to my inbox. Bring them on. But they actually wrote a story for every empire.
I think
every empire has a story.
Yeah, and they did these cool little promo videos for each empire, as if they were basically recruiting videos. And depending on which one you pick, you get different weapons and technology. And the one thing that's really cool that I didn't see them really advertise too much is, in any of those kind of games, basically, you can upgrade. Eventually, you get better gear, better equipment for yourself. But one of the things you get in that are certifications in, like, certain vehicles. And the more certification points you get in certain vehicles, you can buy upgrades for the vehicles. And you can save multiple loadouts of a same vehicle. Like the Sunderers, one that you see all the time. It's a big armored car-looking transport.
Mm-hmm. The ones that act as a mobile spawn point?
Yeah, it acts as a mobile spawn point. It has turrets on the roof. Now, by default, I think they're like 20mm cannons or something. I'm not sure what the exact name of them is. But if you use those enough, you gain certification points in that vehicle. You can use those cert points to buy different weapons to mount on the roof of that. And then you can save different configurations. Like you can put one that has dual rocket launchers on the roof and take that thing out somewhere where you know there's going to be like a lot of aircraft and start picking off aircraft with missile launchers, and they don't expect that coming from a Sunderer because, it's got machine guns.
It's just a really well thought out game.
And it's not just those. You can do that with any of the vehicles. I mean, I made a... for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the fighter there. But I made 3 different versions of the one fighter, and one of them has air-to-ground weapons, one has air-to-air weapons, and one has a mix of each. For a while, I was using one as a scout. It had extra afterburners and fuel tanks on it. You know, things like that, so I can get across the battlefield quicker. But it's really neat that you can swap out the vehicles as well as your own personal gear.
PlanetSide 2 was a contender for my top 5, but I didn't quite make it because I'm not big into shooters. I'm terrible at them. I am really, really bad at them. So while I thoroughly enjoy it, I'm really bad at the game. That doesn't mean it's not a good game. It's just not a game that...
Defiance.
Isn't it a third-person shooter?
It is third-person.
Also, and it's a cooperative third-person shooter, not a competitive.
They do have player versus player.
Well, that wouldn't be something I do. I'm more of the... like Mass Effect 3's multiplayer. That's a cooperative third-person shooter. I'm great at that. But competitive first-person shooters, I'm like, yay! I got headshot. Oh. Yay! I got headshot again.
Like I said,
this is not working.
It's a little bit different in PlanetSide 2 just because of the size and scale of things. So it does make it slightly different than other shooters, but... What was your number 2?
Quantum Conundrum.
I don't think I'm familiar with that one.
Quantum Conundrum. It was a game made by Kim Swift. She was one of the lead designers on Portal. And it is a Portal-esque game. It's an indie game.
Excuse me.
And it pulled... It did a really... It's basically a physics game. You get a little glove that your character can use that can control these different dimensions. And so one of which is the fluffy dimension and makes everything super light. One of which is the heavy dimension, makes things super heavy. And you have to kind of... One of which is the slow dimension and the sped up dimension, or excuse me, the reverse dimension, the reverse gravity dimension. And you have to use all 4 of those dimensions, sometimes all at the same time, to try and get through these little puzzles. And it was just really well put together. It was about 12 to 13 hours of gameplay time for not too terribly much money. It was a really, really, I mean, in terms of being side by side with Portal, of course, nothing can really outdo Portal because Portal is just so dang good.
The cake is a lie.
But in terms of Portal-esque games, it did a fantastic job. The story was funny and quirky. The lead narrator was the guy who voiced Q from Star Trek.
I love that guy.
So he had quite a few sarcastic quips throughout the game. He's basically I think he's your uncle, and you're this 10-year-old kid that's trying to save him.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at.
You'll notice my little, I think it's my Skype or my Messenger.
There is a television series.
The little thing in my Skype or Messenger icon is from Quantum Conundrum. Its name is Ike, the interdimensional kinetic entity, and he's hilarious. So yes, Quantum Conundrum number 2. I loved it.
Yeah, Square announced in June 2012 that they're working on a television series of the game.
Really? For Quantum Conundrum?
Entitled The Super Dimensional Quantum Learning Problems and Solution Game Time Spectacular.
Okay. I don't know what to make of that.
Each episode is a scenario based on an alternate dimension from the game.
Interesting. If it isn't a kid's series, might have to check it out.
With a name like that, I'm pretty sure I doubt it's a children's series. Mom, I want to watch that show with the long name.
Number 1 for you!
Number 1 for me. As if it was a...
Drum roll. Drum roll, I think I know what it is.
Well, what wasn't on the top 5?
Gee, I wonder. It might rhyme with Ild Ars Ooh or something. I don't know.
Your mic's cutting out there. No. Yes, Guild Wars 2. Why? Because it's...
Big surprise!
Now, I will agree with a lot of people that say it seems quite short. It did not take long to get to the end. But then again, when like EverQuest 2 first came out, it really didn't take that long to get to the end content in that either.
Maybe I was just slow. I'm slow in everything. I stop and smell the roses in every game that I play. I wasn't even max level by the time the Deserts of Flames came out.
See, everybody who has bad things to say about Guild Wars 2 compares it to EverQuest 2. They compare it to World of Warcraft. And all I gotta say is, those games have been out for 7 years. Of course they're gonna have more content in them.
Well, yeah.
If you've been paying to play a game for 7 years and it doesn't have more content, I would question why you were still paying.
I will get to Guild Wars 2 later. Dun, dun, dun.
It better be on your disappointment list. I thought it was a great game. It does take a little bit of strategy because unlike other MMOs where you have 50,000 hotbar slots, you only get 10 hotbar slots. 5 of those are reserved for, depending on the type of weapon that you have equipped. One of them is a healing slot, and the other 4 you get to choose what they are. So picking and choosing really makes a big difference in it. I like the fact that it auto-mentors when you go to other levels, so nothing ever becomes trivial. And unlike EverQuest 2, when you mentor down to do a low-end zone, you're not uberly overpowered and killing everything in one hit. So I think they did a good job on that. I love the public quest ideas. I think it does need some more content, but again, it's been out for less than a year, so...
It'll get there. They have some work to do.
Yeah, there's plenty of room, especially in the way the lore is set up to release new areas. There's lots of areas of the map that still are unused for expansion. There's lots of new races that already exist in the lore that can be added as playable. So plenty of room to expand.
We'll see where they go. But, you're not alone in that. There were quite a few people that put it on their number 1 spot. Mine is going to be controversial.
Probably because it's not Guild Wars 2.
Mine's going to be because the ending! The ending! And I think I just gave it away.
Oh, God. I know what you're saying.
My number 1, Mass Effect 3.
Is on my worst list.
Mass Effect 3 is my number 1. Why? Because the story is fantastic. The shooter mechanics were tightened down really well. You feel emotionally connected to the characters in that storyline. You care about what's going to happen to them. And I have not played a game in a very long time that you actually care about your characters. You care about their fate. You care about what's going to happen to them. You care about their stories. You care about the roles that they have in the universe. You care about whether or not they're going to survive against the Reapers. You care about the war effort. It's just... It grabs you on an emotional level, and I think that very few games succeed at doing that. And yes, the ending is probably the biggest controversial point about it, but I don't think that the ending could spoil the entire game for me.
I think there was something else that was even more controversial than the ending, but I will save that for when it gets to that on my list.
Yes, Mass Effect 3. Do we get to do the fun part now? The rants?
Now, which one do you want to do? Yeah, I combined my 2 lists. Because as I said, we were going to do worst games and disappointments, but my thought is the ones that disappointed me because they were the worst games. So I combined my 2.
I view disappointment as different. My worst 5 games are, why was this game so bad? Where my disappointment is more of a...
My disappointment ones were, I looked at this, I really wanted this game, it sounded so cool, it looked so cool, and everybody hyped it up, and it sucked.
Well, no, not that it sucked, just that it did not live up to its hype for me. It did not...
But that's disappointing.
It is disappointment. It doesn't mean that it sucks, it just means that, hey, they said it would be this awesome diamond, and it turned out to be not near as good as it could have been.
But it was this way. Were you ever disappointed by a really good game?
No.
See, so it's the bad ones that disappoint you.
Well, my disappointment is still an okay game.
I have a couple okay ones on my disappointment list too, but...
Alright, we'll go ahead and just do the worst. Let's just do the worst.
I don't have a worst list, so... I'm doing my disappointing list. And then you can do your worst afterwards, and I'll nod in agreement with most of them.
Okay. You go first.
Number 5 on my disappointment list is probably a game that no one who listens to the show has ever heard of.
Me.
It's called Skydrift.
Okay, you win.
It's made by Calypso Media Digital. It was an amazing game. Single player was one of the best games I've ever seen. And you basically have these little planes, and you modify them up, and you race and do missions and things. It was a really fun game. And then they made a multiplayer version, which was, well, it was actually part of the original game, but the multiplayer is absolutely broken. Nothing works right. The game lags. It's pretty much unplayable. And I'm just wondering why you would take a game that had such an amazing single player and absolutely destroy it. How hard would it be to just make one of the other people a player?
Or why not just cut out the multiplayer if it's not done?
Yeah, exactly. Release it as an add-on later, as a free add-on.
Yeah.
People will go, oh, you're giving us new content. Yeah, don't release something that doesn't work.
I agree.
It completely ruined the game.
I agree.
Because that was one of the big selling points of the game, too, is people are like, oh, you can play with your friends and do co-op. Sweet. And it doesn't work. So, yeah, that one was my type of game. I love it, and then it ruined it. It's great if you want to play a single-player game. If you're antisocial and have no friends, you'll love it. Oh, Chromie's heard of it. And see, Chromie can agree, the multiplayer sucks. Anyway, what's your number 5?
I am double and triple checking that it came out last year. I'm pretty sure that it did. Well, okay, if it did not come out last year, then someone can flog me. Number 5 of the worst was Terra. The Exiled Realm of
That came
Arborea.
out this year.
I think it came out in July.
We almost bought that, actually.
Why did Terra get number 5? Because I have never seen worse quests in a game ever. And just the overall... I mean, let me just make an example. You get off... It's an MMO. It's an MMO that came out in July. It's a Korean MMO. You get off the starter island, and you get this quest from this elf that is not at all acting sexually inappropriate. She's doing all these weird gestures and doing that little pinky thing, and when you talk to her, the first thing she says is, oh, eyes on your, excuse me, my eyes are up here, boys. So it's like, oh my, are you kidding me? So not only the character is very poorly portrayed, but you get this, your first quest is, let's go kill Trance!
Korea.
Yay!
It came out in Korea in January 2011 and North America May 2012. So yes, it's this year.
So when you get off, or you get the first quest, it's just Treants. They don't really give you a reason as to why you should kill Treants. The story is very shallow. You finish the first quest, yay, you killed Treants! Now go kill Ancient Treants. Yes, that's right, Ancient Treants. And what makes them different than regular Treants? The fact that Ancient is in front of Treant.
Ah.
It's the exact same mob with the exact same attacks, level 2 instead of level 1.
Here's an interesting thought.
The story was awful. It was terrible. Oh my goodness. It was bad. It was really bad.
The year before the game was released, the company, NCSoft, filed a suit against former employees who worked on Lineage 3 for stealing code and ideas from Lineage 3 to put into Terra.
And there was also another scandal about the fact that there were I think they're called the Elin, and they were a player race that was only female. They looked like little kids with animal ears, and they were full. They wore armor that showed off, the really short skirts. You could see their underwear underneath it. It's like, oh my goodness gracious, this is awful. There's a huge scandal about that too, about the fact that they wouldn't cover them up. These are kids. They look like kids, for goodness sakes. It was awful.
Throw in a couple tentacles and make it... Oh, wait.
They look like little kids. So yes, my number 5 top is Terra.
That probably helped this game sales. There's a lot of sick people out there.
Yes, I told you, the ranting part is the fun part. What's number 4 for you?
You know, as disturbing as it is, that reminded me of something. My daughter had a Christmas concert, holiday concert with their school, and the entire, she's in choir, the entire choir was asked to wear black pants, white tops. Some of the girls in her class, and these are 13, 14-year-old girls, I swear they look like prostitutes. The one girl was wearing like a strapless evening gown with sequins across the chest and things like that. I don't think a single girl in her class other than her actually wore what they were supposed to.
It's called parenting.
Yeah, exactly.
People should try and do it.
Oh, it was terrible. Anyway.
We're going to go over. I'm okay with going over. I like ranting.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Number 4. What do you got?
Four. I have Star Wars Kinetic.
Over.
For the Xbox 360.
With dancing Han Solo!
There is not a more disappointing, or as I think it was it PC Gamer? No, it wasn't PC Gamer. It was IGN. It must have been, had a review where they actually described it as a child shredding or childhood memory shredding dance mode. But yeah, it was really bad. They had these cool promo videos of them using the it's an Xbox 360 game, sorry. Kinetic, for people who aren't familiar with it, is basically a webcam that tracks motion and transfers it into in-game movement. It also picks up voice.
They had a bunch of videos where they were showing some guy doing lightsaber battles.
Yeah, the video promos looked really cool, the way you could do the lightsaber battles and everything, and then I don't know.
We got Dancing Han Solo.
Then the game happened.
We got Dancing Han Solo.
It was horrible. It was, the worst part is, on top of everything else, even if the controls and everything and the dance mode hadn't been there, the game was extremely linear and only had one path through, and that was it. There was no branching. There was no side quests. It was like somebody who designed the thing had a spare hour after his lunch break and went, what can we do? Let's make a game. It was really bad. And you know what? I've never been a fan of Kinetic to start with, because I look at the theory that, you know what? We had that technology 15 years ago. I had a webcam for my PlayStation. And
yeah,
you know what? And you know what? Before that, we had one for the PC that did those same type of games. And before that, remember the Power Glove?
And they still haven't really done it right. Kinect just cannot offer, in my opinion, the same kind of experience that a controller does. It's not there.
Although, I have to give them credit, the one commercial for the one Kinetic football game makes me crack up every time I see it. The guy's playing
extra points if you...
He's playing some football game, and he's calling out his plays and stuff, in voice. And when he does it, his friend comes walking in the room and says, "Oh, is it the third down or something?" And the guy says, "Yeah." As he's walking out of the room, he goes, "Spike!" And the guy spikes the football. He says, "You son of a..." Jumps over the couch and tackles him. So that makes me crack up. But yeah, they made it out to be such a huge thing when it first came out. And it's like, we had that years and years ago. To be honest, the Power Glove worked on the same principle. Just didn't have a camera, but it had motion tracking. Remember that contraption?
Vaguely, I was 8.
I was going to say, you weren't born yet, were you?
No, I was born.
The Nintendo Power Glove was the most awesome thing ever.
I was 9 or 10. I'm not that young.
Watch the Fred Savage movie. What was it? The Wizard. They had the Power Glove in that, and the cool guy had it, remember? Okay, now I am predating you. Okay, I'll stop talking.
Early 90s commercials. Number 4 for me, Resident Evil 6, and I'll be brief about it. I can sum it all. This one I can sum it all up in one line. They took a survival horror game and turned it into a Michael Bay movie. It was like they spent all of their money on just action scenes and quick time events, and look how super flashy it is when this thing stomps your head in. It's just like, I don't care about that when I play Resident Evil. I want to be scared. And even Resident Evil 5 did a better job of it. Before I bought it, I played it on my brother's system, and oh my god, it was just it was bad. It was bad. My brother didn't even finish it. He didn't even finish it because he said it was dumb, and I think, and considering the sales of it were really, really bad, I think that Capcom learned a pretty dang valuable lesson when it comes to assigning 200 developers. That's right, 200 developers to developing that game and having it be a giant commercial flop that got a lot of critical ire. So, Resident Evil 6. Let's hope Resident Evil 7 is actually survival horror. I can hope. Number 3 for you, sir.
Sorry, I'm talking to someone about something completely unrelated to show. I get distracted. We are on number 3?
Number 3.
Number 3. This is where... Well, no, this is a different one. Sorry. I have... Now, this one's going to get me a lot of flack. Diablo 3.
Oh! Well, coincidence! That's my number 3.
Nice.
Yes!
First part actually has nothing to do with the game itself. The very first number 1 reason why this made my disappointing worst game list is the stupid DRM anti-piracy software that was included in it.
The always on... Yeah, error... Is it Error 39?
Oh, yeah. It's terrible.
It launched with... You couldn't even play the game on launch day. It was the servers were so bad off.
My thought is, you know what this kind of anti-piracy crackdown on a game does?
Nothing.
It encourages people to go out and pirate the game so they don't have to deal with this stupid thing.
No kidding.
I know people who actually bought the game and then went and downloaded a cracked version so they didn't have to deal with it. They still owned a legal copy of the game, they just didn't want to play it.
But not only that, they went in and said, they applied the... They applied the World of Warcraft model to it. And they basically simplified something that didn't need to be simplified. It's like, here, we're not going to let you make decisions. The decisions that you make are going to be which spell or which slot on the hotbar all these abilities go on. Oh, you want your ability trees back? Sorry for you. You automatically get all your abilities assigned to you.
Yeah, Chromie's got a good point there, too. You want to play single-player offline mode? Sure. You just got to go online and make sure you pass the DRM.
So dumb. The amount of bad decisions with that game were innumerable. It's just like...
And
they didn't assign any... Blizzard did not assign the right people to it. It's like they assigned MMO developers to it, simplified the crap out of it, attached to an online DRM requirement, and said, we're done!
The other one the absolute deal breaker for me was the fact that the game, even on... I have a pretty high-end machine. I upgrade my machine almost every year with a brand new machine. And it lags in single player. How do you get lag in a single player game?
Probably the amount of effects. I don't know. It was a good-looking game, but not good in... I mean, well... I guess I can try and answer that question. It's the fact that Blizzard has been using that same engine modified over and over and over and over and over again since it released it with World of Warcraft or Warcraft 3.
Yeah, but you'd think if something that old would run better on a newer system.
Not if they try and duct tape effects onto it.
See, we had a problem. I played MechWarrior 4 for years. Came out in 98, I think. And there was a company making mods for that. And they made them year after year after year, and by the end, they literally had quadrupled the size of the game and the things included. And it was still running without any lag. The worst thing you had to deal with was people who were still using dial-up. And that wasn't the game's fault.
People still use dial-up?
Yes, sadly.
I had a friend that used dial-up for a long time, and the amount of complaints that came out of that person were innumerable. It's just like, I feel for you, I really do. Dial-up sucks. Could be worse, though. It could be a satellite connection.
I participate in a lot of beta tests, and you'd be amazed the amount of times when you get people who start complaining, oh, this doesn't work, and this doesn't work, and this is all laggy, and these graphics didn't load, and they're like, well, what are your specs? And they, oh, I'm on dial-up.
So, at least it's stable, but that's about the most that you can say about it. Certainly ain't fast.
It's stable until Mom picks up the phone.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll just go ahead and do my number 2, being that our number 3 was the same. My number 2, and this is you're going to see a trend. Amy. The game was called Amy.
I think I've heard of that one.
It was a survival horror game that... Go and look at the Metacritic.
Okay, I do know that one.
Go and look at the Metacritic scores. It is awful. I mean, the AI was bad. She gets stuck indoors, for goodness sakes. You're supposed to leave this little kid around that's having... She gets stuck indoors. You try and give her a command, and she'll run straight into a creature and get killed. It's like, you try and play the game, but you just find yourself getting pissed off at the game because nothing you do works. And it's just, there's some really weird mechanics. Like, if you do this particular way, like if you're on a ladder, nothing can see you, but if you're off the ladder, it's just... What developer thought that everything in that game was... It was awful. It was bad. It was bad. It was bad. It wasn't really even that scary.
It got a 2 out of 10. An average score of 1.5 out of 10.
On Metacritic?
On multiple sites. That's the average of all of its reviews. It got a 1.5.
I had to see this. I did not look. But it was a buggy, steaming pile of cow dung.
It's been described as one of the worst video games ever made, with an average rating of 1.5.
2 point on
Metacritic. Very good.
A 25 for the Xbox 360, a 33 for the PlayStation 3. It was awful.
IGN gave it a 2 out of 10. Game Informer gave it a 3 out of 10.
It was bad, and they built it up as a pretty freaky-looking survival horror game.
And unskippable cutscenes. Always a plus.
Yes, Amy, do not play it. Walk away as quickly as you can. They put it on sale for Steam and I laughed. All right, you're number 2, sir.
People always talk to me right before you ask me things.
I'm really looking forward to my number 1 because I can.
My number 2 is where me and you are going to have issues.
Uh-oh.
I thought it was number 3, but no, it was number 2.
Mass Effect 3?
Mass Effect 3.
Okay, why did you not like Mass Effect?
I even skipped the terrible ending, even though I had that listed as one of my reasons. Because the ending was horrible. It completely ruined the entire thing. But I will skip that because that's an opinion more than anything else.
Okay.
The things you can't argue with are day 1, launch day of the game. Ooh, let's release downloadable content that you have to pay for.
On-disc DLC.
That should have been included in the game to start with.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely no.
I'll give you that.
The other one, the user license agreement. I don't know, you played the game, how much you looked into that.
Mm-hmm.
There was a whole controversy over their end-user license agreement. 99% of people don't read the thing, they just click on it. Mm-hmm. Somebody took the time to start reading it and then went, whoa, wait a minute. There was actually lines in their user license agreement that everybody who played the game clicked on that said you give them permission to scan your computer for all the files on your system at any time for any reason. That
is an Origin end-user license agreement, and it is an option. It got... there was a... I remember that. I remember that story. There was a firestorm about it, and they had to add in a check mark to Origin, which they did, to turn that thing off. I think it's one of the...
I refused to use any Origin games after the whole fiasco with... My son bought Battlefield 3, I think it was. No, it was 2142.
Oh, I remember that.
And the rootkit that came installed in that game from Origin was so bad that the hard drive I installed that game on, I actually hard reformatted that hard drive, and there's still unusable sectors because of that stupid rootkit.
Wow. Have other people reported that?
Yeah. Yeah, they got sued over it. There was a class action lawsuit and everything over it. It was 10 times worse than the one that Sony Music was putting on their music CDs for a while. Remember when that got the class action lawsuit?
Yeah, because I bought a Sony CD. I bought a 30 Seconds to Mars CD, and that thing was,
I
ripping it. Let's just put it that way.
I uninstalled the game, couldn't delete the folder. I did a Windows overlay, couldn't delete the old Windows install because of that folder. I reformatted, couldn't delete that
And they were
bad
bad
files, and then I hard reformatted the thing, and it ended up with corrupted sectors where those files were being stored.
Wow.
So yeah, it pretty much destroyed a hard drive thanks to that. So I have avoided Origin ever since. So that's another reason that I was not a fan of Mass Effect 3. The game itself was okay. I think it was, like you said, you were so attached to the characters and the storyline. I didn't think it was all that great. I wasn't a fan of the first two, though, so...
This is where we can agree to disagree, sir.
Yeah, I mean, that's an opinion part.
Different opinions on a show like this is fine.
Yeah, that's the opinion part, but as far as the Day 1 DLC and the user license agreement and that kind of thing, you can't argue that. Come on.
I would argue, then, how is the game? Yes, Origin is shit, but how is the game?
The game is okay, but if you can't play the game due to all the other crap, what's the point?
True. I haven't had any problem with Origin, but then again, the first thing that I did was I set my settings not to run any scans. So, or not to send any information to EA.
Well, yeah, but that wasn't an option in the beginning.
No, it wasn't. So when you first installed Origin, I actually refused to play the game until they fixed that.
And then,
but
like
they did fix it, but I refused to play the game until they fixed it.
And the other one is having locked content on disk that they charge you for day one. That's just bad practice all around.
Mm.
And they're not the first game to do it.
No.
Plenty have done it.
Nope.
To be honest...
it's a new trend, and it's not going to be the last game to do it. Trust me.
EverQuest Online Adventures for the PlayStation, back when that came out, there was a whole bunch of stuff on the disc that was locked content for almost a year after launch.
Well, they had, bad form, but they had an 8 megabyte card that you could work with.
Well, yeah, but the fact was the content was on the discs. There was entire zones on the disc that you couldn't access until a year later, and they went, oh, by the way, here's a new zone. It's like, wait, that was already there. It was one of those things where the files were there. If you put the disc into a computer, you could load up and look at certain files and names and things.
Capcom did the exact same thing, I think, with their oh goodness, what was it? Their Marvel versus Capcom discs. They had fighters on the thing that were for future DLC, yet they weren't unlocked yet. So yeah, it's not going anywhere. Sadly, it's not going anywhere, and it's a shame because I think that companies should be more honest about it. But they're not. They just kind of expect us not to find these things over and over again. They expect us to be ignorant.
Okay, so what's your number one? We're going to have fighting words about this one, aren't we?
This was the inspiration for the Nintendo ruins everything it touches line on my Messenger.
Okay, I'm okay with that because there's nothing Nintendo's done that I like, so...
Back during the PlayStation 2 era, and if you played this game, I want to see it in chat, because not very many people have played this game. There was a game series, that was rated year after year after year as the scariest game series ever. It was called Fatal Frame.
What about Night Trap? Oh wait, that was Sega.
I think it was that was the Genesis?
That was Sega CD.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
The modified Genesis.
But Fatal Frame won scariest game. Fatal Frame 2 won scariest game of the year 2 years in a row.
Well, Night Trap was the first one that used real video because it was on CD. It actually used real video clips of like women being attacked and things in the cutscenes.
But
anyway,
they released 3 games for it, and every single one they were all for the PlayStation 2. I think a couple released for Xbox, and every single one of them was terrifying. I mean, just the entire concept was that you had these poltergeists or these spirits, terribly scary looking things, and the only way to banish them was to take pictures of them with this spiritual camera. Now, it sounds silly, but you could only take pictures that did really anything when they were about to grab you. So their faces would start to contort in these disgusting ways, and they'd be making these heinous cries. It was terrifying. It was a genuinely scary game. Oh my goodness! And it just, I have been hoping for a new Fatal Frame for years now. They released one in Japan for the Wii, and it did not come over here. Then, just last year, Nintendo bought Tecmo Koei, which was the company that was behind the Fatal Frame series. Now keep in mind, scariest game ever 2 years in a row. Fatal Frame 2, The Crimson Butterfly. They bought the producers of one of the scariest game series ever conceived, and what do they do with it?
Turn it into a comedy.
They released shovelware with it for their 3DS. Spirit Camera, The Cursed Memoir gets my number one vote because they bought an extremely talented, extremely terrifying game series, and the first thing that crosses Satoru Iwata's mind is let's make a stupid little stylus-using 3DS game with it. I will never see another Fatal Frame game here ever in the United States. I resign myself to that. And Nintendo, oh, why? Shovelware for the 3DS! Shovelware!
Okay, you got me on that. I think yours beats out mine.
Oh my goodness! I'm like, of all the decisions, it was the dumbest news story I've ever read this year. Because this game series, while it was niche, it had a cult following. People loved it. At least the people in the cult following loved it. It got great reviews, or, at least positive reviews. And they think to make shovelware with it.
Yeah, I think you got me beat on this one.
Shovelware! Yes, Spirit Camera, The Curse of Memoir, my number one retarded game of the year. And Nintendo ruins everything it touches. Metroid, Other M. Excuse me.
What about Zelda?
I have not played Zelda games.
I haven't played
Princess
Zelda.
Saga.
I've played a Zelda in like 10 years.
Okay, shovelware means that it's basically a throwaway game. It's a game that is released just to pad the library.
Yep. So they can say, we had 100 new games last year.
Exactly. So
50 of them were crap, but we had 100 new games.
The Wii was very good at releasing shovelware, and yeah, they took I'm just going to say it again. They took the scariest game franchise made by Tecmo Koei, and they turned it into shovelware, a stylus-using 3DS game. Oh, sorry.
The other way you can think about it is the game was such a pile of shit that you needed the shovel to... Oh.
I'm sorry.
Like I said, I'm pretty sure you got me beat, though mine is pretty bad. And it's another niche audience game, so only those who are in the franchise might even have played it or tried it. Or to the fact that you can no longer buy this game is a testament of how bad it was. Yes, there's a game that came out this year and is already no longer
I think
available.
I know what it is. Can I guess?
I'm sure you know what it is.
Can I guess?
Go ahead.
Warzy.
Yes, it is.
Hammer point. Oh my god!
The Warzy. Let's see, where is it? Released in October 2012. December 19th, 2012. 2 days after it's... Oh, wait.
It was pulled from Steam less than a week after it came out.
2 days. 2 days after being available for sale, it was removed. Oh, the beta was in December. That's what it is. The beta closed December 17th. December 19th, the game was pulled from the shelves.
They lied about the game's features. They lied.
It was
point
horrible.
blank lied.
It did not work. Things were broken. A lot of the features didn't work. The game was just absolutely horrible. The worst part of all was that if you died, you had to wait 4 hours to respawn or pay cash to respawn. This comes out to light after multiple players had already pre-ordered and bought the game.
They're offering refunds for it.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are. Steam is.
Well, that's not what they said on here.
Yeah,
the article I was reading said they weren't giving refunds. However, anybody who already bought it could still continue to play.
Steam is offering refunds. If you file a support ticket through Steam, Valve will give you a refund. They point blank lied. And it was hilarious to see the CEO, the big guy of Hammerpoint, try and backpedal. He's like, "Yeah, I know. Well, we said that it'll run 100 players at a time per area. You guys are all catching us on running at only 50. But it can run 100. Oh. Really, it can run. No, it's only running.
My mistake. My mistake. I actually skipped a line. It says that where is it? The game received criticism for being set up like a free-to-play game with credits that must be purchased despite the initial cost of the game. On the day of the game's launch, players could respawn 1 hour after their characters died. However, the following day, Hammerpoint Interactive released an update that increased the respawn time to 4 hours. You could respawn instantly for in-game currency that can be purchased with real money microtransactions.
That is hilarious.
So not only was it pay to respawn, they changed it between 1 hour when people bought the game and the next day made it 4 hours.
Don't you remember when they first released the Station Marketplace, there were a ton of slippery slope arguments being done about how Sony would add in a Visa credit card number to the Revive button in EverQuest 2. It never happened, but apparently Hammerpoint decided it was a good idea.
Yeah, they're talking in the chat channel. The World War zombie game that's based on World War Z, which is, everybody knows from that horrible movie that has nothing to do with World War Z, is a different game. This is The War Z.
Based off of the book, right?
Yeah, there was a book, World War Z. Then they decided to make a movie that used the name but has nothing to do with the book. And then...
To make matters worse for Hammerpoint, the name is currently also in contention.
Yeah, because of the War Z and World War Z. But yeah, the World War Z, there actually is a game called World War Zombie. It is completely different. This is not to be confused with The War Z.
Oh my god, the controversy surrounding that game, it is delicious.
Game that survived an entire 2 days. So...
yes, if you have it, for those of you who are listening who do not think that you can get a refund, if you bought it through Steam, file a support ticket and they will give you a refund. There was an announcement about that. You can get a refund for the game if you bought it through Steam. If you bought it anywhere else, you're kind of out of luck. No, that is not an endorsement of Steam. But for those of you who did, yes, just FYI.
Valve issued a statement saying, "We apologize for this and have temporarily removed sale of offering the title until we have time to work with the developer and confidence in a new build." Yep, it says right there. Valve also said users could submit a ticket for refund if they weren't satisfied with the game.
Yep.
See, I should read the whole article. I was so entertained by the first half of it.
So your biggest disappointments and your worsts are in one list, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple other games that I'm pretty sure were really bad. So
yeah. Well, there were a couple games I played. There were a couple games that I did not that I wanted to play that I didn't get to. Far Cry 3 came out and it was supposedly really good. Assassin's Creed 3 came out and it's not controversial. The ratings, the reviews are controversial. There's some people that love it, some people that hate it. I will decide for myself. I love the Assassin's Creed series. But I do have a separate biggest disappointment. And yes, I'm grinning like a stupid person right now.
Go for
Nobody
it.
can see it. Biggest disappointment of 2012 for Zjeven is Guild Wars 2.
What? You're
again, I think that... Am I fired again?
Yeah, that's the third strike, buddy.
Darn. So, it was nice knowing you all. I will not be back next week.
Yeah.
No, in all seriousness.
I don't want to see you again until next year.
There was an article that was written by, I'm probably going to butcher his name on Massively, by a man named Elliot Lefebvre. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Lefebvre, and it's called Where Guild Wars 2 Goes Wrong. Now, I want to emphasize the fact that this does not make it a bad game. It's just that to me, I read all the articles, I followed the game for over a year, and I finally got to it, and it was a letdown. It did not fulfill everything that I thought it could. And if you want me to list the reasons why, I can. Otherwise,
French name.
I can. We can also put the article in the show notes.
Yeah, I can do that. I just looked it up, so.
I'll just go ahead and, because I think it's verbatim why I didn't really like the. I didn't really connect with the game as well as I could. Reason number one. Maybe I'll just use my own list instead of his, because his article is extremely long. I think that in Guild Wars 2, the individual pieces of the game, so like the heart quests, the events, the personal storyline, etc., they're all individually very well done. However, they don't thread together very well at all. So basically, you have these great experiences that don't connect. And so when you're running around the zones, they don't really have anything to do with each other. You'll complete a heart, and you'll complete an event, and then you'll just kind of like, okay, I did that. It's just another tick box on my world completion. Now let me go back and do my personal storyline, which has nothing to do with what I've been doing over here in the hearts and the events.
No, see, I disagree.
It's all very separate.
Some of them are, but a lot of them are about the same things. Like, there's a zone outside of Black Citadel where the Char live, and the heart quests all pertain, I think it's the 20 to 25 zone or whatever. All the heart quests in the area pertain to fending off and protecting the Char outposts from, what do they call them? The tainted... I can't think of
the ghosts.
No, they're not ghosts. They're, man, I can't think of what they're called. They're actual Char, but they've been touched by the dragon. They were like cursed. I can't think of. They have a word for it, and I can't think of it off the top of my head.
I don't remember enough of the lore to be able to tell you.
There's a whole section of the land that's been tainted by the same thing, and it's very jagged and charred, and the water looks like big bubbles of molten lead.
This observation does not apply to every zone.
But no, there's a lot of these kind of things around where the whole point of that zone is you're fighting off these guys, you're protecting the outposts and stuff, and then when you go through the storyline, they explain to you where those guys came from and why they're attacking, why are they there. When you go to the starter area for the tree people, they're at war with the type of frogs there. I'm horrible with names. Little frog people. Froglocks! But anyway, yeah, they're at war with them, and the starting storylines as you're going through those zones explain why this happens and what the different colors of them are, different actual species, and they all have different alliances. And now, granted, not all of the zones are. There are quite a few that are just random that only pertain to that zone.
Mm-hmm.
But I just
and especially in the human area. The human area was kind of after the first area. The human area was especially guilty of that. The second main zone and the third main zone. But not only that, I don't know if you noticed this, I don't know if it's improved at all, but when I was playing it, events didn't really feel like coordinated efforts. They kind of felt like, rush over there and touch the mob before someone else gets it. Now rush over there and touch that mob before someone else gets it. And now rush over there and just so I can get some kind of, credit for the quest or something, because there were often 20 to 30 to 40 people in one area, and you'd have 10 or so elementalists in that group that were all casting fire rain, area affecting the crap out of
any new MMO. I remember the early days of EQ2 when everybody was in their 20s and we would go to a zone and you're trying to complete a quest and you need to kill 10 mobs and there's only 12 of the damn things in the zone and there's 50 people running around to kill them. And in that game it was even worse because even if you were in a group, you only got credit if you looted the item. So you could have 5 people, 6 people in a group, and you all kill one guy, and only one guy in the group gets credit for it.
They promised that it would be competitive. Well, yes, that is a trope that has been around in MMOs forever, but they promised to resolve it. But the problem is that if you're part of that event, you still are given credit in terms of karma and all the other rewards, depending on your contribution. So if you're a warrior, which I played a human warrior, good luck trying to outpace the rangers and the elementalists and all the other ranged classes because they will hit that mob first, and if there's enough of them, it won't even get to the camp spot before it's dead.
Hey, you have a bow.
I have a bow. What if I liked using other weapons instead?
It did get different in the higher events, but I will agree with you. Some of the lower events were that way.
It was more reminiscent of, pardon me, clusterfuck than it was kind of organized. Now,
when you got into the 70 to 80 zones, the events were huge and took place over big chunks of area, and it did take a while. You couldn't have one person running back and forth. You literally, if somebody was here, you just went over to a different spot. But the lower level ones, I will agree, were kind of. But again, it's one of the theories that it came out. There was a ton of people trying to do the same things at the same times. Now that it's been out 6 months or so, it's spread out.
People were asking for new servers because of the problem, but ArenaNet wouldn't give them because they said that they didn't want to have to merge them in the future. I can understand that. That we don't want to, because every single time that any game, it doesn't matter what game it is, merges servers, there is bad press about it. Yep. The game is dying. The game isn't doing as well. Oh no! So yeah, I can understand them kind of wanting to alleviate that before it became a problem.
To some extent, you have the overflow zones too, though.
You can also solve that same problem though with, but you couldn't select a new overflow. If there were too many people there, you couldn't. You couldn't say, I want to go to a lesser populated zone.
Not if you were alone. If you were with someone, what we ended up doing was when the zone got too crowded, we'd have somebody leave and come back. It would kick them into a different overflow, and then we'd all just go join them.
What else do I got
We were doing that during the holiday events here, because the server was so crowded.
Oh, I'll bet.
I think we had like 14 instances of Dragon's Arch.
Did they add in a menu where you can select an instance, or no?
No, it was the same way. One member of the party was there, and then everybody could click on them and go to.
See, for all of the nonsense that Champions Online tends to attract in terms of the news and in terms of my own personal experiences playing it, they did one thing right. There was only one server, and there were a plethora of instances or quote-unquote overflows that you could do. And any time, it auto-defaulted you to one that had a usually reasonable number of people in it. But if you said, too many, I can't do this, you could click on your map icon and say, I want to go to instance number 99, where there's only 10 people, and it kind of dialed down on that, I'll just say clusterfuck factor a little bit.
EverQuest 2 did that to some extent, at least on the... they still have multiple servers, but whenever something was overcrowded, it made multiple instances.
Yep,
and when you went to zone in, it let you pick from a list what one you wanted to go to.
Yep, and I think that it would have solved a lot of the problems that were present.
The only thing I wish it did in EQ 2 is when it came up with the big list and said which one you want, it should say how many people are in each one. It's missing that feature.
Mm-hmm.
My only real complaint about Guild Wars 2, since it's on your worst list...
It's not. No, it's not worse. Disappointment.
Oh, disappointing. Sorry.
They promised this, and I felt I got something completely different. And
the only thing I was really disappointed by in it was the ability to make a character on a server. The way that system is set up.
Yep.
Because we've had a lot of friends recently coming over to Guild Wars 2. And we tell them we're on Tarnished Coast, and they go, oh, okay, and they go to make a character. Server's full. It won't let you make a character.
And guesting is not even in yet. We're already 4 months, 5 months soon after launch, and guesting is not in yet. Now I have friends that transferred off of Tarnished Coast over to Jade Quarry.
Now
and I couldn't play with them if I came back unless I transferred all of my characters off.
Yeah, that's annoying too. But
probably the biggest disappointment about the game was the dungeons.
Now, see, I like the dungeons.
But you play a ranger, you're a damage class.
There aren't enough of them.
So when Guild Wars 2 was being hyped, they were all over. I mean, ArenaNet was just lauding this. We are forsaking the Trinity. We are not doing the Trinity anymore. We're not doing tank healer DPS. We're going to do something different. We're going to do, I think it was control, it was support, and it was damage. Those three.
Yeah.
So there is no tank, there is no healer, and there is damage.
Yeah, you know how many times I tank on my ranger?
Yeah, control, of course, is crowd control effects. Support is, like the Guardian's bubbles and a couple other things that do that. And then damage...
The engineers' equipment kits, or a lot of them are support.
The damage is self-explanatory. Now, if you go... Most of the time this works, especially in PvP. Oh my goodness gracious. Most fun in PvP I've ever had in MMO ever. It was great. However, take those 3 things into a dungeon and it falls apart. Because a lot of the mobs do not have really good solid aggro mechanics. They kind of target whoever the heck they want to. There is no way to crowd control certain bosses. So, like, for example, my warrior was built entirely for control, which is a viable build. It works. Almost everywhere else it works. It works perfectly in PvP. You take that warrior into a dungeon, most everything is immune to everything that he does. So my character was kind of useless. Supports, Guardians, have really long cooldowns, so most of the mobs are sustained damage. They're not burst damage, they're sustained. They'll keep on pelting shots at you. So my friend would use his bubble, his support bubble, and then he'd have a minute cooldown on his support bubble, so he couldn't really do anything. So the instant that you hit those dungeons, that Trinity completely and totally does not work anymore. Their new Trinity. It's kind of bizarre. I mean, we threw around theories that maybe they designed the dungeons before they did the new Trinity, and that's kind of an outlandish claim to make, but it certainly seems like it, because the mobs and the way that the mobs behave kind of resembles that of classic dungeons. And if it was, like, say, in EverQuest 2, it would work perfectly, because you could position the mobs, and you could hold the aggro, and you could stay alive. But in Guild Wars 2, it doesn't seem to work. Certain elements of their new Trinity fall apart.
So, I look at it from another perspective. I actually like the way it works because it makes you feel more like what a real dungeon run would be. I look at it from EverQuest's point of view.
Excuse me.
If one guy's standing there taunting the enemies and you're fighting 10 different enemies, they're all going to go to him, and that's the point. He holds the aggro, everybody else kills him. If you think about it in a sort of realistic fashion, if one guy's sitting there taunting 10 guys, they're not all going to fight him. The other guys are going to go, hey, that guy over there is shooting at us. That guy over there is healing us. Let's go kill them.
Yeah, but realistically speaking, while it may be how dungeons work, that does not necessarily add up.
Yeah, but I'm a big fan of pen and paper D&D type things, and that's the way things always happen. You don't get one guy that stands in the front and everybody hides behind him. The mobs go around the guy and get to him.
In real life, though, is random Mob 01 going to be immune to a hammer pommel to the face as I try and stun him?
No, but immunities and things are something different. I'm just looking at the fact of, one tank crowd controlling, just the whole theory I never much liked to begin with. I like the fact that they seem to target whoever and just go off and do their own thing.
Now,
it makes you work together more of a team.
I will give ArenaNet credit, though. Their lead dungeon designer does seem to recognize this. They do say that they want to make it so that all roles are capable. Now, we don't know when they're going to release this dungeon revamp that they're doing. It might be around their first expansion. It might be in a patch after the new year. We don't know.
You know what I want? I want my engineer's turrets to have more than 2 hit points. Especially the healing one. Yeah, my 2 classes, I play a ranger and an engineer. The engineer's an interesting class, too, because 90% of your kits that you can equip, they give you basically different loadouts and different abilities, are all short range, yet the kit is a medium armor wearing I should be at long range kit. Like one of my favorite weapons, and they finally made it actually a viable weapon, is the flamethrower, but it only has a range of about 10 feet.
It's a flamethrower.
And if I'm 10 feet away from the mob, that means I'm in range for them to hit me back, and I don't have any hit points.
Yep.
See, where my ranger, on the other hand, wears the same armor as my engineer, has about the same level of hit points, but he uses a longbow, and he's on the other side of the zone. Shooting at
so you're saying that poor Latesh, the explosive, is living up to his name and exploding all over the zone?
And then they give you these cool abilities, like I have an Asura engineer, And I get these cool abilities. Like I can summon a golem. I was so excited to get that golem because I saw people with them, and they're all over in the Asura towns. And I was like, it's the coolest thing. And I finally got my golem. It lasts for 30 seconds at a time, and then it has like a 3-minute cooldown. I'm like, lame.
But aside from the dungeons, I had one more piece of criticism to level on it. And again,
okay,
I will emphasize the fact that each primary piece of Guild Wars 2, the heart quests, the events, some of the class design, and the personal storyline, in and of themselves are wonderfully designed. They're extremely well thought out. And if they were thrown together, it'd be a lot better, but that's just an opinion of mine. My last piece that I wanted to level about it is that area flow. I'll just go ahead and quote this article. Area flow, I believe, is a little problematic. Now, I'm not sure if you know what I mean by area flow. There really isn't anything drawing you from place to place to place in the game aside from a need to complete that place. So there isn't a storyline that says go over there and do this now that you're done with this because they might need this for this and here's how that ties into this. It's just kind of like every little area feels very piecemeal.
I was going to say some zones, like the outer rims, I would say are that way, but honestly, if you do the storyline through, it leads you to each of the zones, and then the other stuff is things you walk by along the way.
But none of the personal storyline does not connect at all to really what's going on in that area.
No, but well, some do, but the majority of the personal storyline says, we'll meet you at this keep in this zone. I'm like, okay, when you walk there, you walk by all these people having trouble, so it's things that you do along the way, or you say, hey, when I'm done doing my quest, I'm going to come back and do that because that looks cool.
I'll just go ahead and read this. This is probably again, this article is really, really well written, and the reason I like it is that he ends it by saying the game is still a great game. That he still recommends that everyone runs out and buys Guild Wars 2 and tries it right now because it's a good game. But he still is constructive in his criticism. He says, this also comes into play... but let's assume that you're not worried about all of this. There's still an issue with area flow centering chiefly on the fact that it doesn't exist. Nothing is pushing you from one zone to the next except clearing the first zone. There are no breadcrumb quests, no reasons to move on, nothing but a vague need to fight higher level enemies and get slightly better resources from harvesting. Your personal story, to your point, Trueflight, in theory, helps direct you to your next destination, but in practice, it jumps all over the place. And it's far easier to just ignore your personal story, which I don't like to do because I love the storyline, for reasons that I'll address in a couple points down. It also will lead you only to a handful of places on the map, leaving you to just decide on wandering one way or another until you get somewhere too high level. The fact that you can do it is awesome. The fact that there is nothing else to force movement other than trying to complete the world, as it were, significantly less awesome. And I agree with that. There really is nothing there's no breadcrumb that leads you from place to place aside from that must complete world, must get next percentage point on world completion, because they build this huge mechanic about, how much of the world you have completed. That's a big part of the game, and they put it on their friggin' character select screen.
Oh, hey, I got something to add on that, which I just ran into on my characters. So, I've got a character, we bought the game day 2. We didn't have it day 1. Bought it day 2, been going out, adventuring, exploring, doing all the hard quests, doing all the exploration, finding all the vistas, all that fun stuff. Got every single zone in the game completed. Every single zone, 100%. Got a little reward, you get a chest, you get a title and some stuff. Looked at my thing, 98% complete. Guess where the other 2% are?
Do I want to know?
Probably not.
PvP.
They're in the PvP zones, the world versus world areas. And I gotta say, I don't normally do PvP. I'm not a big fan. I like the way it's set up in Guild Wars 2. It actually gives you a reason to try to do it. They are kind of fun.
It is fun, and every class in PvP is very
Yeah, they are fun.
So.
Don't go off by yourself. That's the worst thing. Stay in a group.
No.
And I will say, the absolute worst thing in the PvP zone is the monstrosity of a jumping puzzle. And you have to go through half of the jumping puzzle. You get to this door.
And then you'll get hit by an arrow from
but you get to this door and it's locked. Then you have to go through the whole rest of this jumping zone, find a key. You only get half the key. Then you gotta leave, come back at a different angle, and go through the whole jumping thing again to get to a different platform that you didn't see the first time to find the second half of the key. Then you gotta leave again because you can't go back. Leave, come back to go through the jumping puzzle again to get back to the door.
There's a theme song that's coming to my mind here.
And,
Let's see.
And during this whole thing, people are shooting at you because it's in a PvP zone, and the respawn point's half the freaking zone away. When you finally do accomplish all this, you get to the door, you open the door, the guy behind you runs in and steals the treasure chest. And you're like, what an ass.
I was gonna hum the Legend of Zelda theme, but
and this is my biggest complaint about the PvP, because I do like the way it's laid out. It was kind of fun. Normally I don't like it. I had some fun. I killed a couple people. I got annoyed when I was just trying to explore and get the points of interest, and people kept attacking me because I was off by myself. But I actually stripped naked and ran around, so I didn't have to pay repair costs anymore. Because I didn't care. I had no intention of fighting. And a couple times I got jumped by like an entire guild. I came around the corner and there's 20 guys from a guild standing there. I just stood there and let them kill me. I'm like, I'm not even going to try. But the way they have it set up is that the World vs. World breaks down all the servers into one of three factions. Mm-hmm. And you fight as one of those three. And there are 3 PvP zones. One for each of the 3 factions. In yours, you get the main keep in the castle in the middle, and you work your way out. Mm-hmm. The other 2 are the exact same zone, except for you start in a different area and somebody else holds the center keep.
I never did different ones, so I thought they were all different
images
maps,
of the exact same. It's just where you start. And the worst part is, in order to get the exploration, you have to go through all 3 of them, even though they're all exactly the same. Yeah, it was quite annoying. I do like the way it's done. I like the way that you can take over a keep. For people who haven't actually tried it, there's little keeps and castles around the zone, and you can take one. And when you take it as a point, the door shuts. And anybody on your faction can use this little portal to get in and out. Anybody in the opposing faction literally has to blow the door open to get in there to retake the point. And once you take, especially some of the bigger ones, there's merchants in there, and you can buy things like reinforcing the walls to make them harder to destroy, barricading the door, siege equipment, ballistas, catapults.
It's very, very elaborate, and it was kind of funny to be, because one day you'd be in the World versus World zones, and you'd find that your teammates are being dumb, and they're running up to the thing, and they're beating on the door to the fortress with their swords, like, look at me, I'm going to beat down the thing with my mace. It doesn't quite work that well.
And I'm on a hill up behind them all, setting up a trebuchet, going, let me show you how it's done.
Exactly.
And you could literally buy blueprints for these war machines and put them around the battlefield. So if you get like 5 guys buying catapults and they put them all up on a cliff above somebody's keep, the people on the keep are going to have a bad day. So they got to come outside the keep and send some people up there to kill you on the hill.
I got one rounded by
catapults done.
I got one rounded by some of the defensive stuff. My defensive warrior, which, by the way, I will comment. You know how I told you my crowd control warrior worked awful in dungeons? In structure PvP, first place every single time. So I was like, I wonder if they designed this particular set of weapons and abilities for PvP.
I was having a blast in the PvP with my longbow on my ranger. Because we have Arrow Storm or Rain of Arrows. I get my games mixed up. But it basically shoots 1,000 arrows up in the air and then they rain down in an area of effect. Anybody who gets hit by that, also gets incapacitated. I get the hiccups.
Uh-oh.
And it basically halves their movement. So when you get a big group of guys coming around the corner, you fire that and it slows them all down. And then anybody like your mages and whatnot with the area of effects can just start pounding them because they're all stuck in this little group. The artillery comes in from the ballistas. It's a lot of fun. I managed to actually, while I was in there, take a keep And one of the really cool things is when you take a keep, you can claim it for your guild.
Yep.
And not only do you get all these cool karma bonuses for owning a keep, but this giant castle has all these banner poles and tapestries hanging. They all change to your guild logo when you claim it.
It's Guild Wars. I mean, the entire game is founded to some extent off of this concept. I mean,
the only thing
it's really well fleshed out.
It shows your guild logo, but not your guild name. It'd be cool if I had the guild name on there too.
I did have one more point, and I was actually reminded of this by a friend of mine. And this is I can't really say much about this. I guess it kind of speaks for itself. The last bit of disappointment was that by about level 25 to 30, you're kind of done building your character. You don't get any new abilities, really any new weapons. You have all your weapons unlocked. You have all your skills unlocked. You don't really need anything else, or at least all the skills that you want.
My question is, what do you do with all those skill points? Because I have 2 max level characters. I bought every single thing that I could buy on my skill trees, even the stuff I didn't want.
You probably have extras.
Yeah, that's almost 200 extra skill points.
That's the point that I'm trying to make. It's like it's a level 80 game, level 80, and you're done building, customizing your character at level 30.
Yeah, I think it was maybe 50 when I had more skill points than there were skills to buy.
So it's just like, where's part of the game is not just completing the world, or a game to me is not just completing the world. It's about building, especially MMOs, it's about building a character. It's
Hopefully
about
it's something that's going to come in an expansion.
We can hope, but, it would have been nice to have it there at launch, considering there's 80 levels of stuff.
Yep.
And even more so, I did not like... I mean, this is going to sound like a really stupid thing on that same note. I didn't like the fact that they gave everyone access to every ability. So you couldn't... Beforehand, there were trees that you had to go down, if I'm not mistaken. And then they switched it to where you could update to any ability you wanted. They didn't have the tiers, and then they went to tiers. I think that it would have been a lot cooler if they went in and they said, hey, you get... similar to like EQ2 or even World of Warcraft, are going to say to their talent trees, we're going to go 10 minutes. We're going to call a new year.
Might as well.
You basically, your character has access to the same exact things as every other character. I like characters that feel unique. I like saying, this character is mine. I made this character. It's different from thief number 29 over there.
Oh, yeah. You should see my EQ2 builds for my characters. They're completely different than everybody else's.
Yeah, same with mine.
I refuse to go look up a character build. I just make my own. I pick what works good. And
I've had so many...
My characters seem to hold their own, if not, like my ranger out-damaged some of the guys in our raiding guild. And my build at the time, I had the animal charm. Nobody uses that. And they're like, why you waste points on that? I'm like, why am I still doing as much damage as you are?
Yeah.
So what did you waste points on?
A friend of mine was like, you should go look up this raid assassin if you want some build ideas. And I went and I looked, I'm like, that's not anything that I'd like to do. So I just completely and totally threw it out and said, I'm doing this. And he does plenty enough damage for what I deal with. And no, he's not going to parse as much as a raid assassin, but do I really care? No, he is fun for me. And he's unique for me. I built him. He's my character, and he's different than everyone else. Especially considering that he isn't following a build guide. And I think that they kind of missed an opportunity for that. They really could have gone in and said, we're going to make every character different, because they have the foundation for it, but they gave you access to everything. Why? What's the point? It's the Diablo 3 effect. We're just going to give you everything and limit the positions that you have on your hotbar. Again, missed opportunity, I think. But is it a bad game? No. It is a good game. In fact, it does deserve a lot of the awards that it's getting. Does it need work? Absolutely, in my opinion. Could I go back and play it later? Probably. But I think that they're, for all the hype they were building and for all of the articles they were releasing about how unique that they were trying to be, they tried the leap and they didn't quite clear the bar. What they accomplished, the leap itself, was pretty cool, but they didn't quite clear the bar. And that's the biggest disappointment of the year. And I know you disagree because it was your number one.
You suck.
I know. It's okay. And watch. I mean, I might end up next month. I'll be playing it again or something. I'm like that. I'm kind of flighty.
I'm still waiting for him to make EverQuest 2 actually free to play, and I'll probably be back there. I've been tinkering with it. They gave us a free month of gold, and I logged in twice.
I'm still playing EverQuest. In fact, that was going to be my last question. What are you playing?
Yeah,
now?
we used to ask each other that at the beginning of the show. Let's see. This week I played Duel of the Plainswalkers 2013. Checked out Vindictus again because I thought they were having an update, which apparently they didn't have. Did some MechWarrior Online, which is now an open beta. If you haven't tried that, get over there and check it out. It's an awesome game. Did some PlanetSide 2. And some Guild Wars 2. And I logged into EQ2, but I really didn't do anything. I think I'm actually logged in right now because I was talking to someone. And then I minimized it. And that's pretty much it. I'm doing some other testing for some other games too that shall not be named. I can talk about MechWarrior Online because it's open beta now. There's no NDA. That is a really cool game.
Game's secrets, break the NDA. Come on, do it.
No. Enough people already have. It's been a big issue. I don't understand why people read an NDA, sign an NDA, and then break it.
Because rules were meant to be broken.
And as the devs put it, not only did they break it, but they're stupid enough not to use a different name. Like, so they know exactly who did it. What I really want to see is one of these companies, when people do, because you see it on YouTube all the time. PlanetSide 2 was another one. When that was still in beta, people were constantly uploading videos to YouTube.
With their same station name?
Yeah, with their same station name and everything. I want to see these companies. These people signed a legal binding contract. An NDA is a legal contract. You signed it. If you break that, they can take you to court.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can be sued and fined for breaking the NDA.
None of them really do that, thankfully.
No, none of them do.
But they can.
What I want to see is one of these big name companies actually do it. And then you'll see a lot less of these people in betas and other tests because they're only there for that kind of thing. And they're not going to want to risk it. Right now, there's no consequences for doing it. They get a slap on the wrist. Ooh, you get removed from beta and you get to play the game in a month when it comes out. If somebody gets slapped with, a $100,000 fine for violating a contract, the rest of the people are going to go, oh, crap, they're serious.
Yeah, maybe we should. And don't worry, Lone Wolf, I'm probably going to do a countdown. Yes, I'm randomly inclined to do a countdown. I have my clock right up here in front of me.
I actually looked for a automated countdown to play on the cast, because I had planned on playing music after the show until midnight.
We have 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
There's actually a clock in the broadcaster somewhere. I always keep it disabled. The event clock, there it is.
But, I am playing, right now, Torchlight 2. I'm still playing that. I am playing EverQuest 2. I've been playing through the Filthiest content. I've been bad. I didn't really finish up any of the old Filthiest content, and now I'm kind of like, got this hankering. I want to go back and do all the signature quest lines from Filthiest. And I'm also playing EverQuest 1. I kind of went back and got back
still
into...
exists?
Yes, it still exists. I've been playing a new Shadow Knight and going through the hero's journey that they put in, which is actually pretty good. I mean, it still feels kind of old, but that's why you play EverQuest, because it feels kind of old and nostalgic, and this is what games were like back then.
See,
they did a pretty good job of bringing it back up to, bringing it up to some extent. The standards of today, they have quests that actually update as you collect stuff. It's quite nice.
I missed out on EQ1 when it first came out. We got actually introduced, I was in the beta for EverQuest Online Adventures, which was the PlayStation version. We've talked about it on EQ Tuesday a lot. And that was my introduction. And I really liked the game. It was basically the middle ground between EQ1 and EQ2. And that got us hooked on the franchise. We played that for 4 years, that and the expansion to it, and then came directly to EQ2. And I went back and tried EQ1 when it became free to play, and it's absolutely horrible. I mean,
it's
in
old.
'99, it was probably a good game, but by today's standards, I couldn't even play more than like 10 minutes. I'm like, wow, this is.
And you're not alone in that. I know several
bad.
people that will not pick it up at all because it feels old. But
I mean, I like old
was
games.
playing it
I
from
still play my
2000,
2600. I still play my Atari 2600. I still play my my old NES. Heck, I still have some DOS games that I managed to get to run in a DOS emulator. But EQ1 just feels bad. It's not that it's old.
I like it. But maybe it's because I played it forever. I don't know. It's my own experience. It's my own opinion.
I know. The controls were terrible in it.
Nope, they did not. In fact, they tried to. Someone asked, did they update the character models lately? Since
No, Lucklin was the update to the character models.
They were going to. They had screenshots of new humans and stuff like that, and the community kind of went, "No, do not change the character models." They have added in Hero Sports though, which allows you to get new armor graphics for your characters, so you do not have to use the old armor stuff anymore if you want to. But the character models are still the same as they were back in 2001.
To be honest, I would still play EQOA if it was around.
Yeah, well, the PlayStation 2 was...
They closed it last year.
We're coming down to the last minute. We have 50 seconds.
Which sucks, because it was a really good game.
50 seconds before the new year on the East Coast.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Quick, run west.
Get to a new time zone! 40 seconds.
I don't have any big
those
fanfare
three.
or anything queued up, so...
I did buy Far Cry 3 and Assassin's Creed 3. I'll probably be playing those.
I shall still be playing the game that shall not be named.
25 seconds.
I've been putting a lot of time into that lately, actually. That's been chewing up a good chunk of my gaming time.
15 seconds. Which game is that?
The game that shall not be named.
Here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1! Happy New Year
Your
to
clock's
the
off.
United States. Oh, it is? Damn it!
There, now it changed.
Okay,
Woo!
fine. I don't know. I thought that my clock was synced. Close enough! Happy January 1st, 2013 to the East Coast of the United States. We're probably not going to make it to the Central.
No, I'm
Central.
not staying that long.
No.
And everybody over there on the West Coast, hello from the future.
I'm in Colorado, so still got 2 hours to go. It's 15
And
degrees
they want
here.
to know what the game that shall not be named is.
Yeah, I want to know too before we go.
I am not allowed to name it.
Oh, okay. I know which one. Anyway,
No, it's not WoW. God, no.
darn.
I'll tell you the future. New York still sucks. It's still cold here. And we got like 1.5 feet of snow last week.
Send some of that this way.
That sucked. I hate snow.
Yes, Happy New Year to our listeners on the East Coast.
Whoa,
Sorry,
what the heck? I follow a bunch of devs on Twitter. And some of the things they post at times just scare me. Ashlane from SOE just posted, I can rub a bald man's head all night long.
Blink,
Overheard at New Year's party, it says.
blink,
There's been worse.
blink.
Angelina
George-
is saying that they heard WoW had the best expansion ever. I heard that they had a...
Yeah, and they removed all talent trees from the game because apparently that's a good idea.
and they had a Stonebrent Highlands expansion. What one was that?
Well, I shouldn't say remove because people will then flog me. They didn't completely and totally remove it. They simplified it,
But they added pandas.
I'm
the
going to
thing
believe
that
that.
EQ2 added 3 years ago.
Anyway,
We are done for the night, I think.
I will end it though with this. George Takaitis posted something awesome. It's a picture of Jean-Luc Picard, and it says, "Don't just wish for a great 2013, make it so."
Nice.
And so you shall. So Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone. We will see you in 2 weeks on January 14th, 2003. 13. I knew it ended at 3.
3. We're back in time.
Damn time machine. 2013. Hey, I got the 3 right. My checks already have the 1 on them. And we may or may not have a guest. I still haven't gotten confirmation on that, so we will see. Anyway, we will see you then. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can send me an email at trueflight@onlinegamingradio.com. Or to him, but you can't because he broke it.
I'm gonna be Zjeven. It's the little thingy there eventually. So yes, hi. Eventually, this person at onlinegamingradio.com once I get that set up. Yeah, I know Leo's gonna strangle me. He's gonna go, "You had me set it up and now you changed it. Why?"
You're lucky she doesn't get charged for that. How do you spell it? I'm trying to write it in the other chat.
Every other Monday.
Spell it. Zjeven.
Zjeven.
There you go. And that's it for us. Happy New Year. Have fun.
Happy
Keep
New Year.
gaming. And we will see everybody in 2 weeks.
Later.